Championship Wrestling, bringing you great wrestling action, sanctioned by the NWA, National Wrestling Alliance.
19 WCW Saturday Night or whatever.
We'll be doing fine.
Yeah.
So yes, January 2nd, 1988, they were out of the studio again at the St. Louis Arena in St. Louis, Missouri. So the show opens, and the show always opens with clips of a match.
Yeah.
And usually there's an angle or a run-in or a finish or something, and they cut to the intro. This week is the Freebirds against two geeks, and they just wrestle for like 2 minutes. Nothing happens. Then the credits roll, and then the match just continues, and it's the opening match.
Yeah, usually they open with like an angle. And so I'm watching James Bradley and Alan Martin versus Michael Hayes and Jimmy Garvin, and I'm just thinking, all right, so when are Flair and the Horsemen going to run in? And I'm waiting, and they go to the graphics. Mm-hmm. They come back. I watched this whole match. I never got them.
No, the Horsemen did not show up.
They just beat up two geeks.
So Alan Martin's in there with Jimmy Garvin in his remarkably sparkly pants. I hope that when Jimmy Garvin retired, he sold all his gear to somebody, because the idea of all these sequins sitting somewhere in a storage shed going to waste, very sad. He does this backdrop, and it was Martin. Yeah, Martin takes this wacky backdrop. It was like he was doing a cartwheel, but he was 6 feet off the mat, and he comes down on his side, all kinds of wrong. And then Bradley tags in, and he's just...
Oh, dude, James Bradley, he gets a hot tag. Would you like me to explain his hot tag?
Have at it.
His hot tag begins with him tagging in and locking up. He gets the hot hand, and he tags in and locks up.
Yeah.
Then he gets his ass completely kicked. They beat the shit out of him.
He was terrible, so they beat him.
Yep.
He fucked up everything, and so, Jimmy Garvin, not Ronnie, Jimmy Garvin, I wouldn't say shooting on him, but it was stiff as hell, slaps the shit out of him in the face. Hayes comes in, again, not a shooter, but he's chopping the piss out of this guy. Hayes gets up in the corner and does the mounted 10 punches, which is technically illegal, so Tommy Young goes to break it up by patting Hayes on the ass. They hit him with a hysterical double spine buster.
Oh, yeah. Lifted him 10 feet in the air, dropped him on his ass.
He's waving his arms in terror, and then Hayes sits on him like Yokozuna and pins him.
Yeah. Fun enough.
An enjoyable train wreck, I wrote.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah. Dr. Death joins the announcers for a promo. So there's a bunch of bunkhouse stampedes. You win one. I think you only need one to get into the final, but you can win more and get more money. So in storyline, Dr. Death is the leading money winner.
Dr. Death has won so many bunkhouse stampede matches that he thinks he's won about 5.
About 5. He's lost count. He's won about 5 stampedes.
You've won a lot of bunkhouse stampedes when you can't count how many you've won.
Yeah.
And granted, it's not like in your career. It's in the last 4 weeks.
Yes. Yes. So he compares his rivalry with Barry Windham to Oklahoma and Nebraska in college football. Says he's going to go to the finals in New York. He's going to win all that money. Freebirds and Precious cut a promo. He said they already wanted to win the World Tag Team titles. Now the Horsemen have made a mistake. They've given them another reason to want to kick their butts. So Jimmy Garvin's wrestling Ric Flair. Ref gets bumped. Jimmy hits the brainbuster. Tully comes off the top rope, hits Garvin. Precious jumps on Tully's back, and Tully throws her off, and all he does, he grabs her around the shoulders and very briefly grabs her by the hair, and that's it.
No. He grabs her by the hair and he cocks his face.
I see.
Like, I'm gonna punch this woman.
Yeah. But they didn't have to.
No.
They didn't have to. The threat was enough. They didn't need to push the envelope anymore. Hayes hit the ring, laid out Tully. There's a huge brawl. And who should make the save? Because there's still 3 horsemen at this point, but Lex Luger, huge pop for that. And go back to the Freebirds here in the St. Louis arena. Hayes says the Horsemen have lost their touch.
Dude, we got to talk about this Horseman run-in. Right. They run in. First off, everybody hits the ring for the big schmaz. Horsemen go to work on Hayes and Garvin. Luger hits the ring, and the place absolutely loses their shit. Mm-hmm. Like, whatever you want to say about Luger's promos lately, and I will because they suck, he hit the ring, and he is so over.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you watch him, and he's throwing these punches, and they're horrible. But, I can understand watching him and seeing that he's not as good as Flair, and wondering, Why would you want to replace Ric Flair with this guy? But man, you see the reaction that this guy gets from the people, and it's like, well, no wonder they wanted to replace Flair with this guy. He's so over. Him and Sting. But Sting was a different kind of over. Mm-hmm. Sting was like a prelim guy on the rise over.
Yes.
Luger's like, he's a star who's over.
Luger was a main eventer right now.
Yes.
Sting was a guy who felt like he might be a main eventer in, 4 months.
Yeah.
So, anyway, this wasn't even the best reaction Lex got on the show, as we shall get to. So they go back to the Freebirds to talk more. Hayes says the Horsemen lost their touch when they lost Luger. Now, when they try to take you out, they can't get the job done anymore. They're coming for the titles. They're coming for Flair's gold, Flair's money, his limos, his life, his ego, but not his women, because they wouldn't take trash like that.
God, what a burial.
Did you know Michael Hayes was an all-time great promo?
Yeah, he was awesome.
It's true. He was on fire here.
I love when he buried the women, and then he said he was going to take Ric Flair's life. He's going to take his life. And more than anything, his ego.
Yes. So
his ego is more important than his life.
Well, he might be dead and still proud.
Well, sure.
Now Hayes is going to beat him so bad he'll be dead and ashamed. Speaking of Lex Luger, we had Lex Luger versus Keith Steinborn.
Keith Steinborn I don't even know if he's alive. He was a horrific looking jobber. Just my type.
Yeah.
He had a giant, he wasn't just a mullet, it was a profound mullet. Which means that, like, it was very long in the back and very, very short in the front.
Yes.
He had a mustache. Mm-hmm. He had no body. He had no tan. He had black trunks over red and black striped tights.
Yes.
And he went up heavy as fuck for Lex Luger.
See, I was going to say, there's another guy in the show who we'll get to who I thought had no body. I would describe Steinborn as skinny fat.
He was rather skinny fat, yeah.
But this just made him a perfect contrast for Lex Luger, who has the physique of the gods. It made Lex look even better next to this lump. So Lex comes out. He's a babyface, but he's still wearing the long ring robe. Doesn't that seem like something only heels should do? At least in 1988. In 2018, Bobby Roode can wear a robe and everyone loves him, but it seems like a babyface should wear a t-shirt or a jacket or something.
What's wrong with the robe?
I don't know. There's just something douchey about it.
Wow.
Yeah. So
guess I'll have to get one.
Fair enough. They do this match. It's not very good, but everyone loves it. Lex gets him up on the torture rack. People just go crazy. Lex cuts a promo. Says he had made some mistakes in the past, but it's 1988 and it's a new year. He couldn't take out 3 Men at once, but he could take them out one at a time. He's starting with Arn Anderson. He promised that Arn had always called him out for thinking too much about commercials or Hollywood and movies. Well, he's not going to be thinking about movies or commercials when they get in the ring. He's going to be thinking about kicking Arn's butt.
Man.
Says he'd get just as dirty as Ric Flair. Promised all 3 of the Horsemen were going down. A much better promo than he's been cutting lately.
Yeah. That's good.
Dick Murdoch versus Jason Walker.
Allow me, Vinny.
I've had it.
So last week on this show, I talked about how Dave had written in the Observer that there was a Dick Murdoch squash and interview that was like 2 of the best things of the year. And I lamented that it appeared that we had missed it.
Clearly not.
I was wrong. As soon as I saw Dick Murdoch and he's in there with Jason Walker, I thought, oh my God, this is it. This is the match that Dave was talking about. This was a wonderful squash. This was the best squash in months. Murdoch just beat the hell out of this geek. He beat the hell out of this geek. He throws this geek outside. He beats the shit out of this geek all around ringside. He grabs Jim Ross's microphone and he starts choking this geek with the cable. Finally, he just leaves the geek for dead. Jim Ross is so concerned about the geek that he runs over and starts unwrapping the mic cable just so he can have his mic back, so he can do commentary. Murdoch gets in the ring with a microphone. He whacks his geek with his microphone. Why have I not thought of that?
I don't know what to tell you.
I need to come to the ring.
I see.
With an the unbreakable SM58. I need to use that as a gimmick on the Rock and Roll Express.
I was going to say, they've been warned now.
He just pummeled this guy. He gave him a brief comeback.
Yeah.
And Dick Murdoch selling for this geek
This
was
pussy bastard.
phenomenal. And then the spot is, the geek throws him in the corner, Murdoch puts the boot up, geek runs into the boot, and what does Murdoch do when the geek runs into the boot? He drops down there and he starts chewing on the guy's eyeball.
That's what happened.
He chews on his eyeball and finally hooks him for the brainbuster. And I'm thinking, here it comes, brainbuster. Dick Murdoch was in a mood. He lifts this guy up and he holds him in the air like Bobby Lashley. This is the only thing that Dick Murdoch and Bobby Lashley have in common.
That's true.
Murdoch is so white, so pale, so fat, so gangly, so ugly. But man, he could do a delayed.
God damn, he had a brain
And he
buster.
holds him up there and he drops his fucking guy on his head and he pins him. And I thought, that's it. In some ways, I love this match better than anything that I've seen in the Super Juniors so far. And it's been a good tournament.
Yeah.
This was a beautiful squash match. And then he goes to cut a promo.
I thought this promo was significantly better than the match. And the match was fun. Maybe it's because this promo was in fact straight out of the B&V show.
Yeah.
I can't do it justice, but he talked about how he hates this building.
He hates the state. He hates the building. He hates the city, the wrestlers. He hates every geek in this building.
Yes. So he's trying to talk about
He says
how...
working for the Crockett's is like working for the unemployment agency.
Yes. He tries to talk about there's a contract out on Dusty Rhodes. David Crockett keeps interrupting him. It's not your time, dude. Let Dick Murdoch take over. Now, fortunately, it's Dick Murdoch. He took over. Like, by force almost. He took this thing over again. So there's a contract on Dusty Rhodes, a blank check, anyone who can take him out. There's also a $25,000 contract on Ronnie Garvin. Now, he's honest, neither of these jobs is going to be easy to get done. These are two tough men. But he's going to take them both out, he's going to collect the money, and then, for free, he's going to beat up Dr. Death. Why? Because he went to Oklahoma. And Murdoch's from Texas, and he hates Oklahomans. I can't do this justice.
No.
This was spectacular.
Says he beat Big Bubba, but Big Bubba never beat Dick Murdoch, and he's going to take his belt.
Yeah.
And he leaves, and fucking David Crockett, who I'm a big fan of, has to just stop and say, talk's cheap. I'm like, get out of here. You're lucky he didn't hear you, you fucking melon farmer.
Called him a melon farmer.
That was disgusting.
Melon farmer.
Yeah. So the best thing on the show in years.
Yeah. Two details I want to point out. After biting on the man's eyeball, when the ref counts to 4 and he lets it go, Murdoch gets up and he's slobbering.
Oh, yeah.
He's
got eyeball juice coming out of his mouth.
Such a meal out of this guy. He's drooling.
It's great.
And then he hits the brain buster. He makes the cover. The ref counts 3. And they don't cut to this shot. The camera has been shooting the pin. The ref counts 3. Suddenly it zooms in on the photographer on the other side of the ring. Why? Just because she's hot.
Well, we'd find out more about her later.
Yes.
You know what, all you fucking geeks out there doing your goddamn gymnastics and your pro wrestling, watch this match over and over and over again and find out how to kick somebody's ass in the wrestling ring.
That's what we want.
God damn, this was great.
No, ass is kicked.
I'm putting him in the Hall of Awesome again.
A two-time recipient.
He's a two-time recipient of the Hall of Awesome Award.
Right word. Two-time inductee.
Fuck. It was so good.
Steve Atkinson versus Eddie Gilbert. I don't know. Went on too long.
Gilbert was a great worker. It was a squash. Went too long. That's it. I got nothing more to say.
Atkinson was jiggly, and Eddie pinned him with a hot shot eventually. David Crockett interviewed Kevin Sullivan, who was Bray Wyatt in 1988. He rambles a lot, name drops a bunch of people, and when it's done, you have no idea what his point is.
Told some random story about a deal he saw in Singapore.
That's
where
right.
8 guys walked in, their lives were all on the line, and only 1 guy walked out.
So apparently he fight to the death among 8
Did you watch Bloodsport or something like that? It was 1988. So.
Specifically, he said he watched them all go into a cubicle.
Oh.
Now, I don't know if that meant in 1988 what it means now, but now I'm picturing 5 guys in, like, shirts and ties fighting each other with staplers and stuff, which does sound fun. But, yeah, apparently that's how they do matches in Singapore. They lock guys in a cubicle and they fight to the death, and that's that. So he's rattling on about Dusty and the bunkhouse stampede, and he plays for keeps. I have unwritten tombstones in my eyes, and he cackled. Wasn't he former the Varsity Club? Why didn't he talk about them at all?
It's coming. What's the hurry?
Fair enough. Midnight Express. Well, actually, the hurry is that this Kevin Sullivan with nothing to talk about sucks, and I want him to have a point. Midnight Express versus Mike Jackson and Cody Starr. So St. Louis, well, it's in 1988, it's the bigger deal. So Eaton and Cornette have a big hug, and the fans call them faggots. Fun old time. Mike Jackson, usually the best jobber in the world, and the guy the Midnights love working with, he fucked up a body press.
Yeah, but you know what? He goes for a body press out of the corner, and he misses. And he falls down. And Bobby Eaton does not miss a beat. The moment this guy slips on the ropes, he's already stomping on him. Mm-hmm. He stomps the shit out of him. He takes his arm. He immediately gives it back, and they just kept going.
Yeah, they went about the same high spot they had planned anyway.
These men are professional wrestlers.
That is true.
They're excellent professional wrestlers.
And by these men, we mean Bobby Eaton and Mike Jackson. We do not mean Cody Starr.
Cody Starr was Ed in San Antonio. But I believe that Ed would be a better worker, and I cannot believe I'm even saying that.
Cody Starr tags in. He hits the ring along with his fat rolls and his man boobs and his mustache and his mullet.
Ugh.
And then his wrestling was even uglier than his appearance.
Literally at one point in this match, Cody Starr is in the ring. They cut to a crowd shot, and they cut back, and he has magically transformed into Mike Jackson.
Great.
I can only imagine what they cut, and I wish I could see it.
There was a point where... that sounds like an edit, but there was a point where eventually Cody Starr fights to the corner, and he gets Mike Jackson, and Mike Jackson gets a hot tag, and the director cuts away from the Mike Jackson hot tag to show random cute girls in the crowd.
Hey.
Bad timing. So Jackson gets a couple of near falls, and he tags out, and Starr gets beaten again, and eventually they pin him with a rocket launcher. And I did not name one this week, but I guess I'll do this now. Cody Starr is the worst wrestler of all time of the week.
Oh, good. You know, I studied the Midnight Express here in preparation for my match, myself and Filthy Tom versus the Rock and Roll Express, coming up July 14th. Crown Point, Indiana, Black Label Pro. Linked up on my Twitter right now if you want to go. I learned some valuable lessons from the Midnight Express here in this match. I feel a little more prepared every day.
You saw what worked for them.
For this battle, yes.
Wise man to don't miss an opportunity.
No, I'm constantly practicing in my head.
And learning from the best.
Yes.
So Cornette and the Midnights cut a promo. They had 3 New Year's resolutions.
I'll tell you what I didn't learn from. Stan Lane's promo. Now you know why they never let him talk.
Oh, come on now.
And they didn't even let Eaton say one word.
It wasn't that bad.
It was horrible.
He had a bad joke in mind. He went with a bad joke. And that was it. The bad joke was, if Dusty's the son of the plumber, and Nikita is Dusty's friend, that makes Nikita the plumber's helper, which is a plunger. So he's going to flush Nikita back to Russia.
Bad.
That was a bad joke.
It's terrible.
The 3 resolutions are, Stan's going to beat Nikita for the TV title, Bobby is going to beat Dusty for the U.S. title, and together they will put Dusty Rhodes out of wrestling forever. And Cornette goes on a rant about how Dusty and the common people will always lose to the elite like themselves. Larry Zbyszko versus Lee Peak.
Oh, my main man, Lee Peak.
Lee Peak is the guy who I decided he has no body. He's not skinny or fat or skinny fat. He's just a human.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah. Larry beats him up for a while, calls out Barry Windham, pins him with a neck breaker.
Gotta say, the more I watch of Larry Zbyszko, he does stall a lot. He does spend a lot of time yelling at the people. But he's a really great worker.
Yeah.
Like, technically, he's excellent in the ring.
Yeah.
Everything he does is crisp. Everything he does makes sense. Everything he does at the right time. I gladly would have worked with Larry Zbyszko.
Oh, hell yes.
Had I been given the opportunity.
We have both, I think we both criticized him over the years, but yeah, he was awesome. Then he cuts a promo. They go to break and come back. So when they come back, Larry and Baby Doll are in the aisle for this promo, but Nikita Koloff is in the ring. So Nikita and Larry are shouting at each other for a while. And finally, Larry turns to the camera and says, I am sick and tired of waiting for Barry Windham. He has refused to hand over the Western States Heritage Championship belt. So now I've finally got a match with him at Nassau Coliseum for the Bunkhouse Stampede Finals. I'm going to beat him. I'm going to take that title. I'm going to beat Nikita, take the TV title. I'm going to beat Dusty Rhodes, take the U.S. title. And he said about 19 times he's going to climb the stairway to heaven, which meant beat Ric Flair.
It's quite a New Year's resolution.
Hey, he's aiming high.
He is.
I'm going to beat everybody and take all their belts.
Yeah. Vowed to go to the gym, I'm sure. First of the year. See how long that lasts.
Sure. Nikita Koloff versus the Menace.
Yeah, the Menace.
Just some big guy in a mask.
Dude, it's Nikita versus the Menace. Which, by the way, was for the World Television title. I have no idea why.
The Menace earned a TV title shot.
These fans went so nuts for Koloff. It almost melted my TV. For this match.
Yeah.
The Menace.
Yes.
He won with a sickle.
Yeah,
that's all I got.
That's all there is to say out of it. He beat his ass, won with a sickle. My God, the people of St. Louis love them some Nikita Koloff. The Horsemen come out for a promo. Flair immediately calls over that one hot photographer.
Dude, this never would fly in 2018. He's all over her.
And as far as we can tell, she was just there to take pictures.
I believe she really was just there to take pictures. I mean, she looks somewhat flattered, somewhat horrified.
Mostly just scared.
Yeah, she's just kind of standing there, deer in the headlights as Flair gropes her and does his promo. And then he continues holding on to her and macking her throughout the promo that Tully cut. And then finally at the end, he takes off his fucking black fur coat and he gives it to her.
Yeah.
Learned nothing from when he gave Precious a fur coat years ago.
Hey.
He should know better.
If at first you don't succeed, try again.
Dude.
Just with a different woman. When you're
this
giving
is
away
a bad
fur
idea.
coats. So Flair calls out Hawk for the Long Island show. Tully starts running down Hayes. Says he's going to enjoy watching his partner take a former champion apart in the ring. And then JJ just says, we're very honored to be here in St. Louis with Sam Muchnick in attendance so he can see great champions like us.
And they cut to him, and he's just there in attendance.
Yeah.
Having a good old time.
Just watching the show. Ron Garvin versus Arn Anderson.
How about this? It's a hell of a match.
It's a very fun match in which they did close to nothing.
They did some stuff.
I got one takeaway from this, and this is something that it seems backwards now, but it worked for the time. Because Arn would do small cheating here and there. He'd pull the hair, or he'd pull some tights, or he'd grab the ropes for leverage once in a while. But by and large, he just took Ronnie down and worked him over with wrestling holds. He out-wrestled the man. And then Ronnie's coming back with eye rakes and punches and slaps.
Well, here's the deal, Vinny. Let me explain some psychology to you.
All right? I think I know what you're going to say, but
yes.
Go ahead.
The idea was the heels would go in there and they would try to out-wrestle the baby faces. However, if they couldn't, they would resort to cheap tactics.
Yes.
Okay. So once the heel has resorted to cheap tactics, the babyface can then make a comeback and use cheap tactics because then the fans are thinking that the bad guy got what he deserved.
It is poetic justice.
Yes.
There's that.
This is fucking perfect.
There is the other thing about this is that, especially in Crockett and in St. Louis, where wrestling really mattered, not every single wrestler was the same. And Ronnie Garvin, though he was a former world champion, was not the best technical wrestler in the world. So it was believable that he may fall victim to a finger hold here or a hammerlock there. But he was a fighter. And when he was throwing hands, Arn couldn't keep track with it, couldn't keep up with him. So each guy had a different style and went with what worked for him because they were different wrestlers. So I didn't mean that as a knock or critique, just an observation of how things have changed. But
yeah,
yes.
things have changed because nobody thinks anymore.
Yeah, that's true.
That's the problem.
So I don't know how long this went. Probably about at least 15 minutes.
They had a great spot where Arn's going to try and pile drive him, and Garvin sprawled.
Yeah.
Which is a great, legitimate shoot counter.
Yeah, all your weight's now too far away. He's at zero leverage.
I will plank, and you can't lift me up.
That's right.
That's what happened there.
And it worked. Arn tries a sunset flip, and Ronnie teeters and totters, and then does the big right hand for a near fall. Arn sold it like death, but still kicked out. And Ronnie hooks the figure four, but JJ rakes his eyes to break it up. This goes on for a while, and finally Ronnie tries a body press. And when you think of the huge, powerful men of late 1980s Jim Crockett Promotions, you think of Hawk and Animal and the Warlord. When Garvin tries his body press and Arn catches him with ease, Arn Anderson was a big, thick, strong, scary man. So Arn catches him with ease, and then because the spot is a ref bump, he looks behind him and he sees the ref, and he swings Ronnie into him to take the ref out. So they go on for a while. Tully runs in and attacks Garvin. The ref recovers. He calls for the DQ.
What a finish, by the way.
Yeah.
We had two main eventers and what I thought was a main event, even though it wasn't. Mm-hmm. And they do a good long match, and they do all their moves, and they do their near falls, and they have the ref bump, and et cetera, And then at the end of the day, a bunch of geeks run in for the DQ.
That is what happened.
Yep.
We would criticize this on Raw in 2018.
Well, I was just watching it thinking, this is exactly like a late 90s WCW main event.
Or a Nitro or Raw. But
yeah. No, because Raw would be like short match.
That's true.
But not the main event, actually. I'm wrong about that.
Yeah.
But
regardless, it's always lame. However,
it was like watching Nitro, though.
Yeah. However, so it's Tully and Arn beating up Ronnie Garvin, and who should make the save? But once again, Lex Luger. And he's going after Arn, as promised. And he pairs off with Arn, and Tully pairs off with Ronnie, and everyone's brawling. And JJ goes after Lex, but Lex catches him and puts him in the torture rack.
This fucking torture rack's over, dude.
This pop. It is, like, I know this. I know history. I know what happened. But it's impossible to watch this and not believe that Lex will be the biggest star in the world soon.
Yeah.
And he never was.
No.
But it's, how?
Well, we'll find out watching it.
We'll find out soon, but my God.
Yeah, but Vinny, think about this. Like, we haven't really watched a lot of Luger from 89 through 95.
Yeah.
That 6-year period. But think about all the times we watch Nitro and Luger racks somebody, and the place goes absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
And they just never do anything with the guy.
That happened, yeah.
Like, he'd win the title, he'd lose it back 6 days later. It was just, I mean, we're
going to see his whole career is being right on the edge and never going over at the right time.
Let me give everybody a history lesson, all right? So, Lex Luger was going to win the WWF title. They did this big, long thing with him as a babyface. This was 1993. I think it was 93. I think it was 94 Rumble they did this. But anyway, it's the summer. They do the Lex Express tour. They're doing all this stuff. They're trying to build him up because he's going to be the next guy. They have a goddamn Royal Rumble. And in the Royal Rumble, Bret Hart and Lex Luger are in there. And the fans are more into Bret than they are Luger. One match. One show. All that fucking work. And Vince just changed his mind.
Yeah.
And he had Bret Hart win.
Plans changed.
Let me repeat that, everybody. One show, one match, one city, one day. Fucking Roman Reigns now. 4 fucking years. Every day.
Yeah.
Every match. Every show. He won't change it.
No.
Literally, Luger, because of that one day, never won the WWF title. They never ended up doing anything with the guy. It all fizzled out. And lo and behold, he ended up going to WCW where they fucked him over there as well.
Well, we're going to learn, Crockett fucked him over several times in 89 and 92.
Sure, yeah.
His whole career was, he had an entire career.
But I need to see this.
Being fucked up.
I need to see this because there's a lot of things that you hear about or that you even remember. The Attitude Era was awesome. Okay? Going back and watching it, you learn things watching it again.
It sucks.
You know what I mean? Like, there's all this talk about Luger dropping the ball. He never dropped the ball one time in all of the time that Nitro was on the air. He was fucked. He didn't drop the ball. He was fucked. So I want to see this again with 2019 eyes. This run through the late 80s, early 90s Lex Luger and NWA.
So, to summarize this segment here, everyone brawled to the back. Nothing was established except because things made sense in the 80s. Lex was a dick for the whole year of 1987. And just because he got in a fight with the other assholes in the Horsemen, people didn't welcome him back with open arms. He had burned his bridges. But now, in theory, perhaps he may have earned the trust of one Ronald Garvin here by coming to his aid when he needed it. He may have one friend now. And then in the surprise main event when we thought the show was over.
Sure, the show was over. And then we had the Powers of Pain and Ivan Koloff versus the Road Warriors and Dusty Rhodes for the World 6-Man Tag Team titles. I have no idea who won. They went off the air in the middle
this is not because you were not paying attention.
No. You know, I mentioned this last week, but it's true. Dusty as a 6-man tag team champion is great.
Yeah.
Because, like, he doesn't have to do a ton on offense. He gets tired, he can tag out. They get the heat on him. All he has to do is stand or lay there. He can make hot tags. The other guys can do a bunch of work. Every time he's in there, he gets the most out of every moment.
Sure.
It's great.
Yeah. So they plugged the upcoming bench press competition to see who is the strongest 2 men in wrestling.
It's coming.
January 30th in Greensboro. Now, we all know that the Warlord and the Barbarian, among others, were very blatant Road Warrior ripoffs. I had forgotten that they went as far as to also get black tights with red letters running down the legs. There's a point here where Hawk and the Warlord are trading punches or elbows, whatever, and you can only see them from like mid-thigh up. So not only are they both wearing black with red letters, but the letters on their legs both say war. Because you can't see the Eeyores or the Lord part.
Oh, Eeyores.
Warriors.
Like talking about the fucking donkey.
That sounded
Winnie the
wrong.
Pooh.
That sounded wrong. Point is, they were ripoffs.
I will say, though, Warlord was way bigger than either Road Warrior.
He was titanic.
Like, the Road Warriors were renowned for, like, being big, giant monsters, but, like, Animal was a big, thick powerlifter guy.
Yes.
Not particularly defined.
No.
And Hawk was a big, jacked-up guy, but he was nowhere near as big as some of these guys.
Warlord was ridiculous here.
Warlord was gigantic. Even the Barbarian was huge.
Yeah. So, for I don't know how long this went, 7-8 minutes. It was very fun for what we saw. They didn't even get to the heat. They just went back and forth the whole time. Everyone was working very hard. Everyone looked good, even Warlord. They didn't ask him to do much, but what he was asked to do...
Hey, six-mans, dude.
I was telling Tony when he walked in.
That's how you hide Ronda Rousey.
That's how you hide Ronda Rousey. You get 6 stars on TV, but only one of them has to do a job.
Yeah.
They're great.
Or none of them.
Or in this case, none of them. Because they went for 7 or 8 minutes and the show just ended.
Yeah.
I forgot the name of they had an hour-long syndicated show, which I forget what it was called. But that was notorious for plugging a main event throughout the show and then showing the first minute and going off the air and then never mentioning it again. They haven't done this on Saturday night until this one. And at least this one, we got some match. We got some minutes of wrestling.
I think we've had a few shows where they've gone off the air in the middle of a match.
Maybe
but
we have, but
it's not a regular thing yet.
I did not feel outraged or ripped off here.
No, it was like we'd watched 2 hours.
Yeah, that's also true.
And we got some action and it went off the air and
it's not the promotion's fault this match went just a little bit longer than you may expect.
No, and you got to tune in next week to find out if the Powers of Pain are the new 6-man tag team champions.
That would be a nice theory if they ever mention this match ever again.
Guesses or not, but you never know. And yeah, we're getting ready for the bench press contest.
That's right.
What could be more exciting than big dudes lifting weights?
And they did a fine job of pushing the Bunkhouse Stampede show.
Yeah, this was an excellent show.
It really was.
This was a very, very good edition of NWA. First week of 1988, so we're not that far away from the big sale, but still a good show at the moment. We'll see what happens after they get sold to Turner, but that is the story. So anyway, that's it for the show. That was a quick one.
Well,
but hey, we got all of our action in. We got all our spots in.
That's right.
We don't need to keep dragging it on.
We don't need to overstay our welcome.
No.
And there will be gorilla shit all over down there.
NWA World Championship Wrestling, January 9th, 1988. Show opened with last week's angle where Ron Garvin was attacked by Tully Blanchard and Arn Anderson, and he was saved by Lex Luger. We had Sting and Barry Windham versus Alan Martin and Tommy Angel. Sting, again, did his spot where he lays the guy out and just does a bunch of standing splashes in a row.
Yeah, but he didn't switch sides this time.
Well, he switched sides once. He went from left to right, but then just going back to the left, he went from the right again.
I was exceedingly disappointed.
It's he's got to switch it up so it does not become predictable. His opponents will not be able to, his opponents will be off balance and not knowing what is coming next.
Sure.
Whether it be a splash from this side or a splash from that. Anyway, why has nobody stolen this spot?
Dude, I have no idea. I don't know why he gave up the spot. That's the bigger issue.
Yeah.
Like, it was something that stood out for the guy, and then he just quit doing it.
Can't you just totally see Mojo Rawley doing this?
Yeah.
Splash, stand, splash, stand, splash, stand, splash, stand. Awesome. This went on for a while, and a subtle thing at the end, Barry seemed to have the match won, but instead of hitting his own finish, he whipped the dude into the corner and then tagged Sting in, so Sting could get his Stinger Splash and Scorpion for the win.
The only thing I have to say about this match, besides the very unfortunate fact that Sting stopped doing an actual cool spot that he did when he was very young, I'm so into the jobbers here on the show, except for Dick Murdoch, who's a hero, and a couple of other guys, but as many people who have listened to the Sunday show for years are well aware, Tommy Angel fucking sucks. I mean, a lot of these jobbers are terrible, but Tommy Angel in particular is just, he's so bad. He was fine in this match. And keep in mind that one of the guys in there was a very, very green Sting. So I guess the moral of the story is, even if you completely fucking suck, if you just keep trying, you can become mildly acceptable.
You can reach competence.
Yeah.
Aim not for the skies, but for the higher points of the hills.
Well, it's like, you know, if I ever went on tour and gave, like, you know, I'm going to give everybody some advice on how to improve your lot in life. I'm not going to go out there and say, you know, if you try hard, you can accomplish anything. That's bullshit. It's more along the lines of, if you totally suck, but you don't give up and you try really hard, someday you could be average. That's the lesson we've got here from Tommy Angel.
Sweet.
Sure.
And then the winner's cut a promo where Barry it was not a bad promo on Windham's part, but he's a normal human. We're going to win the World Tag Team titles, he says. Tully Blanchard and Arn Anderson, you should take notice.
He also said, Sting and I have been doing a lot of things together lately. I was like, oh yeah?
He did say that.
What's that mean?
So they're getting better. But then they go to Sting, who just a fountain of charisma, and I mean that in a non-ironic way. We want to be the best, so we want to beat the best. I'm warning you, Four Horsemen, you got to watch out for two guys who are 6'2" and 260 pounds that can move the way we do. He just blows Barry out of the water, and he moves on, and Barry says, oh, by the way, Larry Zbyszko, you will never be Western States champion. I cannot wait till we're watching these shows, and the Western States title has just disappeared. Because as far as I know, nothing ever it's gone by the end of the year. Nothing ever happened with it. It was the UWF secondary title. That promotion is dead. Now Barry still has this belt. It means nothing. Just stop talking about it. I'm just tired of it.
You know, it was also weird the way they shot it, where Sting, I guess they must have had Sting stand behind Barry, because Barry towered over Sting. Like, Sting looked like he was maybe 5'10" here in this. I know he's not 5'10", but it's kind of weird that, you know, you got two stars, but you don't really position him right, and one guy looks really short even though he's not.
Barry is huge on these shows. I don't know if he had lifts or if he had actual cowboy boots with a big giant heel in the back. But he's a guy who's like 6'6" in real life who looks about 6'10".
Well, maybe he is 6'6" in real life. I don't know, because Sting certainly didn't look.
I'm pretty sure Barry is like 6'5", 6'6".
He's very tall.
Yeah, he's legit taller than Sting, but you are right in that he dwarfed him here. Midnight Express versus Lee Peak and Mac MacGyver.
God, you started exactly like I did, with a chuckle.
Well, there's so much to talk about here. Mostly because of Jim Cornette.
Well, let's start with Mac MacGyver then first, because that Jim Cornette comes later. They're coming down to the ring, and Mac MacGyver is just your classic fucking terrible jobber. And unlike Tommy Angel, he's not getting better. And he comes out, and he's just a square-headed, pale-ass, geeky-looking geek. His head is so square, which was ironic because I'm typing about how square his head is, and then later Jim Cornette just erupts on him about his haircut.
I was the same thing. I'm like, look at this guy's haircut, I thought. And
yeah.
2 minutes go by, and Cornette said like the exact same words I did. Look at his haircut.
That's right. So he gets in the ring, and he's a jobber, as is Lee Peak. But this week, Mac MacGyver's decided, I'm going to wear a fucking leather jacket.
Uh-huh.
He's out there in this fucking leather jacket. Just the biggest geek who's decided that if he wears a leather jacket, he's going to be a little bit bigger deal. He's not. He was just fucking terrible in this match. It took 5 minutes of the Midnight Express beating these two dudes before any of the announcers even started talking about the match.
So let's see. In the match itself, before we get to the Jim Cornette. So one of the geeks, I'm not even sure which geek it was, but one of them, like, gives Bobby Eaton an arm drag. And Bobby pops up, surprised, but impressed, and he gives the guy the double high five, you know? And
was this early?
This is towards the beginning.
Okay, so that was, that would have been Mac MacGyver.
Okay.
Because Lee Peak was, they basically beat up Mac MacGyver for 5 minutes, then they let him tag, and they beat the other guy for 5 minutes.
Okay, that's fine. So they start to wrestle, and the guy does another arm drag. And Eaton is even more blown away, and he gets up, and he double high-fives him again, and as soon as the guy high-fives him back, Bobby punches him right in the face. Because Bobby Eaton's great. And then they didn't sell anything the rest of the match. It went on for a while. Of course, it's the Midnight Express. It was very good, as squash matches go.
Dude, it was very good, but they were totally fucking around. Like, Stan in particular, He puts Lee Peak in an abdominal stretch, and do you remember that ROH show that we were watching, and who the fuck was it that just gave himself a wedgie?
Oh, Tiki O'Ryan. No, Taven, one of them.
Taven, it was Taven.
Something on that team.
Just because his ass is facing the hard camera and he's just fucking around, he gives himself a wedgie, and it was go-away heat. In this match, Sweet Stan, because he's a heel, gives the other guy a wedgie.
Yeah.
He gives Lee Peak a wedgie, and just for the hell of it, an abdominal stretch because he's a dick. Then he throws him outside, and for those of you that don't understand wrestling, or you've never been in the ring, or even if you don't have to know any of that, but anyway, when you're going to throw a guy in the ring, you like kind of turn him in a circle and throw him in. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He turned this fucking guy around 3 times before he threw him into the ring.
It was like they were square dancing. Just a big old do-si-do.
This was incredible.
He finally threw him in, and then he started to dance, just because he's Stan Lane. he likes being Stan Lane. So eventually the Midnights won with a Gravedigger, which is basically an avalanche spinebuster. So Cornette in the match. The storyline for the Midnights right now, what they got going on is they are already the U.S. Tag Team Champs. And, of course, they're not going to be facing the Horsemen for the World Tag Team titles because they didn't do heel programs very often back then. So instead, Stan Lane is going to beat Nikita Koloff for the TV title, and Bobby's going to beat Dusty Rhodes for the U.S. title. And somewhere in here, he called Nikita Koloff, and I quote, a commie slopehead Russian. Now, I'm assuming that's a racial slur. I don't actually know.
I couldn't quite figure that one out. I presume it had to be, but I
didn't Google it.
I don't understand it.
I don't want that in my search history, but it sounds mean. It sounds very, very mean. So the Midnights win, and then, of course, that just leads to Cornette talking more. He is running down Dusty Rhodes. He says, to make a long story short, he calls Dusty's sister a prostitute and his mother an alcoholic, and then he tells a story about Dusty Rhodes' father. Now, before I begin, I just want to say, send hate mail to James E. Cornette in Louisville, Kentucky, not Brian and Vinny in Bothell, Washington. So Dusty's father, he explains, once had a successful shoe store. So successful, in fact, he sold that when everyone in Texas thought about black loafers, they thought of Dusty Rhodes' father.
Dude.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, he had that. He talked about his drunken daddy. He not only called his sister a whore, but also his mother. He threw that in there at the end. His mom said something like, her living room was home for every man. He said something like that.
While your dad was out working in the ditches, every delivery man in town knew the color of your mama's bedroom.
That's right. Yes. So it's both the mother and the sister.
So the mother was a slut. The sister was a whore.
I see. I didn't know there was that big a distinction.
Distinguished. Well, in Cornette's world, apparently there is.
Okay, I got it.
Nikita Koloff versus Jeff Cruz.
Jeff Cruz
for the World Television Championship.
Now, let me explain this here, because they explained it in commentary, and it was funny because it made sense. I'll just explain. They said that Nikita Koloff is a fighting champion. And therefore, they said, and this was practically Shivani's exact words, guys like Jeff Cruz are getting title shots who normally would not.
That's what he said.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there was it was weird because as a fighting babyface, that's what you want, right? Your babyface will defend the title against anybody, even a guy like Jeff Cruz.
Sure.
But on the other hand, it's like, Nikita's defending the title against Jeff Cruz?
Yes.
What a fucking coward. Get some competition, buddy.
There's no one more deserving of a title shot this week than Jeff Cruz. Eddie Gilbert won a match last week. He can't have a title shot. Ivan Koloff, the Barbarian, all these guys, and you were fighting Jeff Cruz?
Yeah, let's look at who hasn't appeared on the show yet. The Ball Bearing.
Yeah.
Ron Simmons.
Sure.
Dusty Rhodes is there. Larry Zbyszko is there, who, by the way, wants a belt.
He's on a winning streak.
The Lightning Express are there. The Warlord is there. Luger. We got Dick Murdoch is there, who goddamn needs a title. I mean, the list goes on and on. But instead, he, as a fighting champion, gave a championship match to Jeff Cruz.
Yeah.
Who he killed quickly.
It went 2 minutes. Cruz got more offense in 2 minutes than I would have thought, but it went 2 minutes, and Nikita won with a sickle. And Nikita cuts a promo about Cornette running his mouth. How the Midnight Express won his belt. They want Dusty's belt. He also warns Kevin Sullivan and Mike Rotunda they are not ready for him either. The announcers had a list of men who had been injured in the bunkhouse.
Oh,
stampede.
my God, my favorite thing on the show until later.
That's a strong statement, Brian.
Well, when you first said it, it was my favorite thing on the show, but as the words were coming out of my mouth, I remembered what came later.
So, Rick Steiner's had surgery because of the bunkhouse stampede. Mighty Wilbur has had surgery because of the bunkhouse stampede. Ricky Morton, they said, is hurt. His knee's all banged up. And Ricky would have more to say about this later. So, Wilbur, they explained, had won a spot in the finals, but then had to go in for knee, and he later added hip surgery.
May I begin here?
Yes.
I watched this over and over again. As everybody's well aware, Mighty Wilbur is just the best babyface. He is the best babyface. So in real life, he broke his leg in a bunkhouse stampede. So that part was real. So they go to Mighty Wilbur, and he is laying in a hospital bed. And he's got this big cast on his leg. And he says, well, you know, you fans aren't used to seeing me in a predicament like this. It's on account of the most dangerous match in the world, a bunkhouse stampede. But I knew what I was getting into. I done got thrown over the top, and I blew out my knee and needed hip surgery and knee surgery. It's just one of them unfortunate things. I won enough stampedes to go to the finals on January 24th, but shucks, I can't go now. And I want to wish everybody luck, especially my buddy Dusty Rhodes and Hawk and the Road Warrior. He doesn't even know their names.
I wrote this part down, actually. He said, the Hawk, Animal, and Road Warrior.
Yes.
That's what he said.
So he gets this all out, and then he goes, so yeah, fans probably aren't worse to look you aren't used to seeing me in a predicament like this. He's basically starting over again.
Yeah.
And then they cut away.
They did. Almost mid-sentence.
There's no wrap-up. They were just like, okay, the first part was perfect. You ain't going to do it this well again. But now you're just repeating this shit. So we're just going to cut it, and we're going to go back to this. It was so fucking amazing. And now, like, there's, you know, I don't think people understand this, okay? I just want to do a quick aside, all right? So, I am, in fact, a black belt in jiu-jitsu, okay? I watch a lot of Pedro Sauer videos. I watch a lot of Rickson Gracie videos. I watch a lot of Marcelo Garcia videos. I watch a lot of videos with Brazilians who don't really... I mean, they're learning to speak English. It's not their first language. Do you understand?
Sure.
So, like, people make fun of me sometimes for, like, the way that I pronounce words. And I'm not doing it on purpose. Do you understand? It's like... I'll just see, I'll give an example. Like, every time Rickson says the word practice, he says practice. And he says it over and over again. Practice, practice. You've got to practice. You've got to practice. Anyway, I actually don't do that one, thank God. But, like, there are things that I say that I can't help myself because I've heard them so many times. And unfortunately, I watch this fucking thing so many times that if I end up saying predicament, which I'm going to try not to do, but if I say it down the road, I don't want some fucker on the board talking about what a fucking idiot I am. This is from Mighty Wilbur. And do not denigrate him or anything he says or the way he talks. Because he's a great man.
He sure is a friendly fella. So they cut him off mid-sentence. And they go back to the announcers who start plugging the finals and the $1 million purse at stake in the finals, which will be a steel-caged battle royal. And then, to promote the Steel Cage Battle Royal, they show another Steel Cage Battle Royal. Or at least part of it. They're in Atlanta. There's, at this point, 4 dudes in a cage. And Bob Eaton shoves 2 of them out the door. And Bob Eaton and Dusty are fighting for a while. And they just say, well, Dusty won. They did not show the finish.
I can only imagine what we missed.
But they promise us Dusty won the wild card here, and so he is the last berth in the Stampede Finals at the Long Island show.
What a shocker.
Now, they have big news. They're well aware not everyone can make it to Long Island. Now, I think you could have stopped right there, and their point would have been made. But they're like, 7 o'clock, it's on the East Coast. Not everyone can get there from...
God damn, this East versus West Coast battle continues here.
I guess so,
30 years ago.
But the good news is, Brian, they are now on pay-per-view television.
Wow.
Yes, the cutting edge. So you can call your cable operators for info on how to watch this show. Barbarian versus Steve Atkins.
You know what's funny about ball bearing? So, Paul Jones is out there, and he's doing commentary. And I was watching this on my iPad with headphones in, so I'm very, Paul Jones's words are going directly into my brain, okay?
It's dangerous.
The headphones are connected to my ears, and they're going directly into my brain. This fucking guy said ball bearing every single fucking time. We're not even joking.
No.
That's how he pronounced the Barbarian, ball bearing. I don't know why.
Because he's Paul Jones.
And he had a great line here.
Yes.
So first off, Steve Atkins was very lean, being an Atkins and all. He's getting his ass kicked by the ball bearing. And Paul Jones says, "We will convince people that ball bearing and the Warlord, they will prove that they are the strongest in this bench press contest." He says, "I'm not going to say which one, but one of these two men can bench press 700 pounds. And we all know that the Road Warriors, they can also bench press 700 pounds, 350 pounds apiece." I howled.
That was awesome.
What was funny about it, though, was his delivery was so bad, he just fucked up the comedy, but it made it funnier to me. Everyone else probably thought he sucked at his job. I thought it made him better.
So Atkins sucked, took 7 steps to run across the ring at one point, and the ball bearing pinned him with a diving headbutt. Do we mention the fans chanting Puddinhead Jones? Because they did.
Loved it.
Had a Ric Flair promo cut on some other show and just injected here. He was very subdued by Ric Flair standards. Said he and Tully Blanchard and Arn Anderson were all great, and they knew a lot of people didn't like them, but that's okay, they liked each other. Said they gave Lex Luger a chance to run with them. He could not make it alongside the Elite. I swear to God, Ric Flair said about Lex Luger, I'm sure he's a nice guy.
He did.
He is a nice guy because they hung out for a while. He's a great athlete with a great physique. He's just not Horseman material. And they started calling out Michael Hayes, said he was a young lad.
A young lad struggling to make it to where Ric Flair's been his entire career.
And I laughed and I thought, wait, he was not even 30 years old here, Michael Hayes.
He was a young lad.
He was a young lad.
I just never pictured Ric Flair calling him a young lad.
It did sound funny coming from him. Ron Simmons versus David Isley was an absolute thing of beauty, and I will not listen to anyone who does not agree.
You can talk about the match. I want to talk about the promo.
I'll talk about the match. So Ron Simmons is actually a bunch of jacked up hosses in the show, but Ron Simmons is a big, scary guy. College football star, just a pile of explosive muscle, fast twitch fiber, and beef. And he's just clubbering this guy. And David Isley's got a body like a marshmallow, and he's just... I don't know what got into David Isley this week, but he said, listen, I'll sell for this Ron Simmons guy. I'll make his stuff look good, but he's going to have to take some of my stuff too. And he, throughout this match, would just fire out with knees or elbows or punches. And when I say Ron Simmons would no-sell them, he would not acknowledge them in any way. In Ron Simmons' world, this offense did not exist. He didn't shrug them off. He didn't fire up and look at Isley sternly. He just pretended they weren't there and went about his business. And Isley keeps on firing back. It's adorable. It is adorable how he thinks he can hurt Ron Simmons. And finally, he throws him into the ropes, and Simmons is running at him. Isley goes to throw a back elbow, and Ron Simmons just runs through him, doesn't even slow down, just obliterates him like a train. And then Simmons grabs him. Ron Simmons then had a wrestling move I don't think I've ever seen before, and I don't think I've ever seen since. He gets behind Isley, grabs him around the waist to kind of the pelvis, really, and he does a slingshot wheelbarrow suplex. And he lifts the guy up, drops him across the ropes, hurls him backwards over his head, and pins him. Glorious! That was awesome.
Then they go to David Crockett. David Crockett's got a question for Ron Simmons, and that question is, Ron, do you believe that 1988 will be your year? Fucking hell of a question. Ron Simmons says, I'm sick of holding back. I'm going to speak my piece. This Ric Flair keeps coming out and bragging about all the awesome things he's had in his life. I never came from a rich family. And when my mama passed away, she instilled in me one thing, and that was a desire to fight. I'm going to make history, and I'm going to become the first ever black heavyweight champion. They cut to David, and he says, I believe you can do it. And Ron Simmons says, I will!
That's right.
This was a fucking great promo.
And eventually, if you ignore the titles they ignore, he did.
He did!
Yes. Yeah.
It's another one of those things where, Ron Simmons' WCW title reign was not like, it is not looked back upon as one of the great WCW title reigns in history. But it's very much like when before Ron Garvin won the title, 2 years earlier, when he's out there just smashing the shit out of jobbers and he had that awesome match with Flair, and we're like, God, why did everyone not like the Ron Garvin fucking title reign? Well, then we watched it.
Yeah.
So I will temper myself this time, but let me tell you, watching this match and listening to this promo, man, I'm all pulling for Ron Simmons to win that title.
Ron Simmons felt like a worthy title, a worthy contender for the title of best wrestler in the world here.
Sure, and eventually, a few years down the road, who knows?
Sure.
We'll follow along.
Dusty came out for a promo. He runs down Cornette for a while, moves on to Flair, says he wants one more title run if this is his last year. Then he moves back to Cornette.
Oh my God, this promo. It was incredible.
Was it here or later when Dusty talked about his own sister?
Oh, it was here.
Here. Because Cornette was talking about Dusty's family. So Dusty says, go ahead and talk trash about my sister. She's 6'2" and 350. She'll beat your ass too.
All right, here's what he says. He talks about the $50,000 bounty that's been put on his head. He says that 1988 will be his finest year. He says, he's the U.S. champion, therefore he is in line for the world title. He says, I haven't mentioned Flair in months because Flair's got a lot going on, but Flair, you got more going on now because I'm going to go after you. And then he says, and as far as you, Jim Cornette, when I see you, I see a feminine person.
That's a quote.
He said, my buddies and I, after the matches, we go out, we get some hooch, and we chase the women. But man, when Jim Cornette goes out with the boys, I'd hate to see what happens. Everyone in that crowd howls, thinking what's happening here. Mm-hmm. He says, yeah, my sister, she's 6'2" and 250 pounds, and, quote, she'll jerk your neck off and put her foot down your throat because I'm the bull of the woods. I'm going to win the Stampede. It's going to be my year. And he says, Cornette, you can ask my mom what to do with your bra when you get your clothes stripped off. And he storms off stage. This was a fucking... let me temper that. This would not fly in 2018. Do you understand what I'm saying?
No.
But delivery-wise, this was awesome.
I also earlier they said the winner of the Buckhead Stampede would get $1 million, and here Dusty said he was going to win the Stampede and win $500,000. Maybe he's accounting for taxes.
Well, maybe that, or I don't know.
It's a Dusty promo.
Yeah, who knows?
His delivery was awesome. As we go back over the show, and I'm going over my notes
This show was amazing.
This is a very, very, very good television show, which brings me to Larry Zbyszko versus Cougar J.
And by the way, we're nowhere near the peak yet.
No, we're not even halfway through. So Larry Zbyszko, almost exactly 1 year after this, would be the World Heavyweight Champion in the American Wrestling Association. I promise you, he had a better performance on this night than he did when he won the title. Larry Zbyszko and Cougar J. First of all, Larry, doing nothing, comes out and he already has the most heat of any heel on the entire roster. The fans are chanting for Barry. We want Barry. And so Larry's taunting them, I want him too. He was out here earlier. Why isn't he out here now? He goes over to the announcers. Where's Barry Windham? I want Barry Windham too, just like all these stupid people. And he stalls, and he stalls, and he stalls, and he stalls forever. But the crowd's going crazy and crazy and crazier the longer he stalls.
They're chanting, Zbyszko is a wimp.
Zbyszko is a wimp. Zbyszko is a wimp.
And there literally is a point when he's stalling where he tries one spot and it gets reversed. Like the very first time they touch.
This is the key. This is the key.
Yes.
Eventually, the heat finally starts to die down. And so Larry, they finally start wrestling, and Larry gives Cougar J offense, and the crowd fires up again.
Yes. He does one spot, Cougar J reverses it, and Larry Zbyszko actually screams at the top of his lungs, "These people are getting to me!"
Yes! So they just keep chanting, "We want Barry. Zbyszko is a wimp." So this all, I'm sure, went much longer than they had planned. And finally there's time to go home. And so Larry walks up to Cougar J, gives him the karate kick in the gut, hits a neck breaker, and pins him.
Oh, yeah.
I cried. I cried with joy.
It's fucking Cougar J, so, like, it's a spinning neck breaker, right?
Yeah.
So it's like the shake, rattle, and roll, except no shake and rattle. He just grabs his neck and rolls.
Yes.
Fucking Cougar J, like, I don't know what's going on, but
it didn't go well.
He doesn't go, and so his neck gets just bent in half, and then he bumps. It actually looked like he broke his neck.
Yeah.
Listen, we've only watched Larry on this particular show for like a couple months now. He's fucking amazing. Do you understand? Okay? I know he stalled a lot, but he is a fantastic wrestler. And he got so much heat from these people. It was
so much
incredible.
reaction for so little work and zero risk. Nobody got hurt in this match except Cougar J because he fucked up his own neck breaker. And then Larry cuts a promo. I did not write it all down because I was still writing about the match, but his promo was great.
He basically says the fans are annoying.
He's got no more time to waste on these fools, he says.
Yes, I've been calling out Barry. I want Barry. I have no idea where he's at, but it doesn't matter because I'm going to get him at the Nassau Coliseum. I'm going to take him in that ring. I'm going to teach him a wrestling lesson. And I will treat him like a stepping stone to another title.
January 24th at the Nassau Coliseum. I'm in your office digging through your paperwork for your cable bill, trying to order this pay-per-view. Larry was the man here. Do you hear me? Larry Zbyszko was the man.
Still not the best thing on the show, Vinny.
Lightning Express versus Trent Knight and Bob Riddle.
Sucked. Technically solid, technically boring. Anything else?
Larry had the crowd so fired up they actually ended this for a while. It did not end. They fucked up a spot where Riddle, who I don't think is Matt Riddle's dad, but I think he thought Horner was going to do a reverse atomic drop, so he just jumped straight up in the air. But then Horner didn't do anything, so he just landed on his feet, and then Horner punched him. At least the jobber looked like a geek. The Lightning Express blatantly ripping off spots from the Rock and Roll Express, who were on this show later, so that was weird. And then eventually they won when Armstrong lifted Horner and dropped his leg across Knight's face, and they pinned him. We had a special guest on the show.
Oh, man, I loved this segment. I loved it.
This was awesome. Bill Apter and his comb over there. Not bald, mind you, because I'm used to seeing Bill Apter just bald. The comb over was actually an improvement, if you think about that. He is there to present the winners in this territory of the Pro Wrestling Illustrated 1987 year-end awards with their plaques. So the first one, which by the end was the best one, they should have saved this for last. Nikita Koloff has won the Inspirational Wrestler of the Year. And Nikita comes out. He thanks all the fans. He thanks Dusty Rhodes for his friendship and giving him a chance. And he has to call out the most important man. And he calls out Magnum TA. And Magnum comes out. And they embrace. And Nikita calls him Terry. Says he is why this is all possible. Dedicates the award to him. Nikita Koloff, the Russian nightmare, fighting back tears. As he embraces Magnum TA and thanks him for this award.
Magnum's got this big, thick jacket on. He's walking, but, I mean, you can just tell that he's just lost a ton of weight. His arm doesn't work at all.
When he first got hurt, even like 3 months later, they were talking about when he gets back in the ring. And by now, I think everyone knew that was never going to happen.
Yeah.
So, but he cut a great promo here, too, about how, when Dusty first started hanging out with Nikita, people warned them, you can't trust this Nikita Koloff. But he'd sat back, he'd watched Nikita over the past year. Nikita Koloff exemplifies everything that is the best in pro wrestling. And I hope he wins this award again next year. This was so awesome.
It's unbelievable. They left together. It was just so great. And it's a fucking fake award.
Yeah. So
they made people cry over a fake award and what they did surrounding it.
Dusty Rhodes, then, is most popular wrestler in 1987.
So Dusty Rhodes wins the most popular wrestler, is voted by 15,000 fans in Pro Wrestling Illustrated magazine. So because he won, he comes out and he says, Pro Wrestling Illustrated is the biggest magazine in the entire world. Not a wrestling magazine.
No.
It's bigger than Time. It's bigger than People magazine.
Yeah.
It's the biggest magazine in the entire world. And it has voted him the most popular wrestler. And he cut an actually an awesome, fiery promo about how this is the NWA. It's real wrestling.
There's no cartoons out here.
No, he was awesome.
There's no copycats. Real pro wrestling here in Jim Crockett Promotions. And then, this is not the best.
This aside from Magnum, this was my favorite.
Yeah, exactly. This was not the best, but it may have been my favorite. By the way, just a quick note on the how you mentioned these are fake awards. Dusty Rhodes won Most Popular Wrestler of the Year the same year Hogan beat Andre in the Silverdome.
Yes.
I'm skeptical.
Yes.
Regardless, we move on, and the next award is for the Most Hated Wrestler of the Year.
Yes.
They're actually going to present this plaque. It's made. They're going to say to a man, no one is more hated than you. Everyone hates you. Here's an award to commemorate that fact. But the winner of this award, Ric Flair, cannot be there that week. So Jim Crockett has to come out and accept the award for Most Hated Wrestler on Ric Flair's behalf. So he has to explain, well, if you're a hated man, you have a lot of enemies. And when you're a successful man, you have a lot of enemies. And this award, I think, represents how Ric Flair is the greatest champion in the world.
I'll read it.
Okay.
He says, success breeds enemies. Ric Flair is the most hated, but he is also the most successful. And in my opinion, he is the greatest champion that wrestling has ever seen. And he walks away.
Yes.
I loved it.
It was so awesome. And finally, the award for Tag Team of the Year goes to not the Four Horsemen or the Rock and Roll Express, who were world champions in '87, not the Road Warriors, who were the big main event draws. No, the best Tag Team of the Year goes to your United States Tag Team Champions, the Midnight Express. And they're very, very happy about this. Bobby Eaton kisses Bill Apter. And Cornette has had his time on the show, and so he basically yields his time to Stan here. And Stan says they need to dedicate this award to two very important people, and those people are beautiful Bobby and sweet Stan. What took you fans so long to figure this out? And that was it.
I was furious that history was not rewritten here to give the award to the Rock and Roll Express to promote my match with Filthy Tom and the Rock and Rolls, July 14th, Crown Point, Indiana. BlackLabelPro.ticketleap.com for ticket information.
Warlord versus Larry Stevens.
2 words.
Yes. Not the Warlord, not even Warlord. First name War, last name Lord. Mr. Lord and his wife Mrs. Lord had a baby, and they named him War.
I can believe that.
So, as we all know, Warlord was not a very good pro wrestler, but he was very, very strong, and he did one of the best press slams I ever saw here. He presses Larry Stevens over his head, and then honestly threw him through the air. And Stevens goes crashing down onto his side. And Warlord went on to win with a running power slam, which, as you noted, would be a better finisher for Braun Strowman than the standing power slam. We had Lex Luger at an arena somewhere. He beat Curtis Thompson in a minute with a torture rack.
They had the announcers screaming that he could end up the greatest wrestler of all time. And, I mean, he wasn't gonna be, but, man, that guy had an upside.
He sure did.
He had an upside.
You can't blame them for trying.
No, you can't.
No. And he got a promo saying the Horsemen are on the top of the world, but you are on top. There's only one way to go. And he's going to kick them off the edge one at a time. Dick Murdoch versus Rick Nelson. So Jim Cornette, when he was out here earlier, had mentioned he had a surprise later in the show. And here it was, as Jim Cornette is now Dick Murdoch's manager. This is not as exciting as last week's Murdoch squash. He beat this guy for 2 minutes and won with a brainbuster. But then they cut a promo.
Well, before the promo, first off, it wasn't as exciting as last week, but there was actually a spot where Murdoch throws this dude outside, grabs Cornette's rack, and starts beating the shit out of him. And Teddy Long does not call for a DQ. Instead, referee Teddy Long says, and I quote, "Dick, You should know better. That's what he said.
Well, there's our next shirt.
And then Dick hits the brainbuster for the pin, and I love that they showed a replay, which actually illustrated how safe the brainbuster was.
Yeah.
So
Had to be within 2 feet of the mat. So they go to cut their promo.
Fucking promo.
So
For
Cornette
the
says,
third time, I'm inducting Dick Murdoch into the Hall of Awesome.
he was not alone out here. Jim Cornette starts. And he says, now earlier on this show, I was talking about Dusty Rhodes, and y'all heard me running down rednecks. You're wondering how I could be out here with Dick Murdoch, Captain Redneck. Well, let me tell you. This is Captain Redneck. He's a society redneck. He's got fertilizer on his boots, but that fertilizer came from 7 straight Kentucky Derby winners. He's got a pickup truck, but it's big and shiny and clean and chrome. And when I climbed into that truck, he didn't play Willie Nelson or Waylon Jennings. He played, who was it, Dick? And Dick says, George Jones. George Jones, Cornette says. And Cornette's a big George Jones fan this week. He promises Dick Murdoch's going to beat Dusty Rhodes in that cage in Lakeland, Florida on the 24th.
Allow me to speak upon Dick. Dick Murdoch is furious that Dusty has won the most popular wrestler award. He says, I've seen the kind of people that love Dusty Rhodes. It makes me want to vomit.
He put his finger
in his mouth. Yeah. He says, Dusty talks about everyone talks big, but he should know better than anybody. Dusty should know better than anybody that when Dick Murdoch says he's going to do something, he does it. He says, we were partners forever. We were partners for years. We were the best tag team in the world. Maybe we're still the best tag team of all time. Nobody does a better job than Dick Murdoch. When I go out, he says, I don't drink a little hooch. I drink a lot of hooch. And I, Dusty, not you, I was always the first guy in those brawls. I was always the first guy to go after that dude on the motorcycle. I'm going to be the guy that's going to take you out in that cage match. He's fucking beat red. He's pouring down sweat. He died at 49 of a heart attack. I mean, you can't help but think of that when you watch this promo. His blood pressure is just, it's boiling over. This fucking promo. I was dying to see these guys in the cage match. How is this guy not in the Observer Hall of Fame? What's going on here?
I don't know. But he talked about all this money Cornette had promised him. He says, I'm going to be a very rich man. I'm going to drink a lot of hooch. I'm going to two-step with a lot of women. It was great. It was just great. Road Warriors versus Nate Bolin and Dale LaPerouse. I can only assume Nate Bolin is Kenny Bolin's brother or something. So this, of course, went 30 seconds. And Dale LaPerouse was his usual awkward, gangly self. And he's running the ropes. And it's like he was CGI, but a different guy animated every part of his body. So his legs don't line up with each other, and his arms are all out of control, and his neck's going back and forth. And Animal just clotheslines his fool head off. And LaPerouse is left ass over tea kettle, planted into the mat. He killed that guy, Crockett notes, and chuckles, and they pinned him. Just with a lariat. Just with a lariat. And then they cut a promo. Animal says, we've been bench pressing in the gym. We've been bench pressing in the ring. We have built our reputation on being the strongest men in wrestling, and everyone in Greensboro is going to see that for themselves. And then Hawk went.
Oh, my God.
Hawk
Did you write this down?
As much as I could.
Okay.
Hawk explains there's a lot of sports writers out there calling them soft. A lot of critics have said they've gone soft. Well, nothing about this is soft, and he does a most muscular pose. Nothing about this is soft, and Animal flexes his biceps. He says there's only one part of our bodies that's soft, and it's not soft all the time.
If you know what I mean.
If you know what I mean.
And then...
No, he couldn't leave that alone. He had to direct... That was merely a setup for his next his next comment.
Immediately after talking about his cock, he then says, and keep in mind the line was, there's only one part of our body that's soft, and it's not always soft.
It's not
if
soft
you know
all
what
the
I
time.
mean.
Uh-huh.
And we're going to give Ric Flair a really hard time the next time we see him.
Yes.
I was like, you talked about your dick and you threatened to rape Ric Flair. What the fuck's going on here?
They're going to break his back and make him humble. I can only assume.
Dude.
So, You buy that pay-per-view, folks, to see Hawk sodomize Ric Flair. And finally, Paul Ellering says that he's heard Paul Jones running his mouth about how his men are bigger and badder than the Road Warriors. Well, in Hawaii on January 20th and in LA on January 21st, my men are going to face your men. And if you're feeling froggy, Paul Jones, I dare you to stick your nose in there, too. The greatest tag team of all time came out for a promo. Ricky Morton's out there. Now, it was January. Maybe there's a cold snap in Atlanta. Ricky Morton's wearing a full-length fur coat.
Dude, a full-length brown fur coat.
The funniest part was, it was just him. Gibson was his usual self.
Yeah, Gibson's just standing there.
Jeans, a t-shirt, maybe a windbreaker. So, of course, Ricky did all the talking. Injuries can happen in any sport. There's been a lot of injuries in this bunkhouse stampede. He says, the doctors want to cut my legs. And it took me a minute to figure out what he meant there.
Surgery.
I thought he meant, like, amputation.
Yeah. It was a rough stampede.
That sounds bad. No, he meant surgery, but he was telling those doctors, no. He's got to compete for the fans. He says they're 5-time champions. Says they're going to win the Crockett Cup. He calls out the Sheep Herders for jumping them from behind. Calls out Blanchard and Anderson because they're tag team champs. And that's that. Sheep Herders versus Mike Jackson and Italian Stallion.
Oh, man.
This could have been a really good wrestling match. This could have been a really good squash. Instead, it went 2 minutes, and the Sheep Herders won with a gutbuster.
Okay, so that's bad, but listen, I was upset that the match was so quick, but they gave time for these Sheep Herders to close the show with a promo. And I must, Vinny, I must do this promo. I must recap it, and there's a reason why. The Sheep Herders vow that 1988 will be the year of the Sheep Herders, and they're going to take everybody down. They say they hate rock and roll. They hate the Express because they hate rock and roll, and they hate them for being bloody Yanks. And then they turn and they say, right, Johnny Ace? Fucking howled. They hate long-haired punk rockers. They say they haven't even started.
Pardon me. They hate rock and roll, they hate bloody Yanks, they hate long hair, and they hate punk rock.
Yes.
Yes.
They haven't even started with the rock and rolls. They vow to break every bone in their Yankee bloody bodies. They suggest they toss their gear away, cut their hair, go get another job, save their bodies from looking like a dried-out octopus with broken tentacles, which, by the way, only the Sheep Herders could pull off that line.
A dried-out octopus with broken tentacles. That's exactly what he said.
They knew they blew out Ricky's knee. They knew they gave Robert internal injuries. And the rock and rolls need to surrender to the Sheep Herders and just admit that the New Zealand flag is the real red, white, and blue. Now, I can't even begin to do justice to the delivery of the Sheep Herders in this promo. It was a fucking work of art. If they weren't already in the Hall of Awesome, they'd be in. They fucking ruined our match with the rock and rolls. I will never be able to live up to this promo here. I was so furious when this was over. That's the match I want to see. Fuck me and Tom. I don't give a shit about that match. I've got to see the Sheep Herders versus the Rock and Roll Express. This sounds like the greatest tag team match in the history of mankind.
The only thing I can add to this is that at one point, while the Sheep Herders were ranting about bloody Yanks and how great New Zealand is, Johnny Ace is behind them, and as we note, he never does anything. He's just there. But when they started talking about New Zealand, Johnny takes the flag, and usually, he's just got the flag pole and he waves it back and forth. He takes the flag, one corner in his right hand, the other corner in his left. He holds it high up above his own face. So now all you see is the Sheep Herders and the New Zealand flag behind them. And they're ranting and raving and carrying on. And then Johnny lowers the flag so just his eyes are peeking out over it. His nose and mouth are still covered, but he's looking at you. He was awesome here, just doing that.
They were all great.
This was great.
Hey, you know what? Listen.
And then... Okay, go ahead, yeah.
Well, I just want to say very quickly about them and about Dick Murdoch. Dick Murdoch is not in the Observer Hall of Fame. Obviously, the Sheep Herders are not in the Observer Hall of Fame.
Really?
I'm not even going to really argue that they should be in the Hall of Fame. I will argue actually about Dick Murdoch, but not so much about the Sheep Herders because, they did become the Bushwhackers and they weren't the Sheep Herders when they became the Bushwhackers. But I mean... all I gotta say is that I haven't watched all of the wrestling in this world And there's a lot of territories we haven't really delved into. I'm sure we will over the next 20 years or whatever. There's a lot of different things in the WWE Network. But I have to say that I have watched a lot of wrestling. I've watched a lot of wrestling all over the world. I've watched a lot of wrestling in different eras. I've watched a lot of wrestling in different territories. And honest to God, Dick Murdoch is one of the best promos I've ever heard in my lifetime. Do you understand?
He's unbelievable.
He's that good. And say what you will about the Bushwhackers and everything else. As promos, I mean, there are not a lot of tag teams that I've seen in my lifetime that have been better promos than the Sheepherders. This was not an aberration here. Every time they cut a promo, it's fucking awesome. They are really, really fucking great.
So they go on this tirade, and it's awesome, and it's wonderful, and it's glorious. And then they cut to a wide shot. Now, there's been a microphone on screen the entire time, and a phantom arm holding the microphone. So we've known Tony Schiavone was there, but we could only see him from, like, the elbow down. They cut to a wide shot. Tony's standing there. His one arm is out holding the mic. His other arm is just in his pants pocket. He is looking... he's not bored, but he is a guy who has seen a million crazy wrestlers do a million crazy promos, and for him, it's just another day at work. He's just part of his job is dealing with these lunatics every single time. And so they finish, and they leave, and the camera zooms in on him, and he does a quick little note saying, "Folks, that's going to do it for this week. Thank you all for watching Jim Crockett Promotions. We are the Major League of Professional Wrestling. Please tune in again next week." And the credits roll. And it's just like 30 seconds, and I was just so happy when it was done. Wrestling used to be fun and happy. You know?
Hey.
This is a Saturday afternoon show.
Yes.
And the Saturday afternoon show ended. It went on a high note. Everyone had a ball, and they went on with the rest of their weekend. It was so fun.
Hey, listen, like Dave said on the show, I don't know what day it was, a week ago or so, when we were talking about the new WWE, they're doing 4-hour pay-per-views. Every pay-per-view is being moved up, and now it's Sunday afternoon at 4 for every show. And here on the West Coast, 4 o'clock. Everybody else, 7 o'clock or whatever. But and he noted, like, back in the day, no matter where I was on Saturday, I could be at the beach, I could be on a date, I could be out with my friends. I had to leave whatever I was doing and be at my house at 3:05 in order to watch the show. Because it was 3:05 on the West Coast. And he wasn't missing his wrestling. But you gotta remember, if you don't like Raw and SmackDown, or you think it's too long, or you're bored by it, who gives a fuck? Get on the WWE Network and make it weekly viewing to watch NWA World Championship Wrestling. Start wherever they were at the beginning and just go through every week for 3 years. And you know what? When it's over, you can start over again if you want to. It's not like I wouldn't watch this show again. This was one of my favorite TV shows I've watched in 2018.
Yeah.
It was, and last week was also awesome.
I'll be honest, I did not quite realize that watching it. I knew there was some good stuff in the show, but I didn't quite realize how stacked it was top to bottom. As we went over here, I was like, hey, this is fun. Hey, this was fun. Hey, this was fun. Hey, this was fun. This show was awesome.
Yeah. I knew when it was over, because I watched that Sheepherders thing over and over again. The Dick Murdoch thing, like Dusty's promo. There were so many good, it wasn't like a lot of good wrestling, but there were so many good.
And there will be gorilla shit all over the Omni.
On this show, and we'll talk about some memories as we get going.
Okay, NWA World Championship Wrestling, January 16th, 1988. So it opens. Usually the show opens, there's like a clip of like half of an angle, and you'll get the rest later. This week it opens with like the ring intros for Dick Murdoch versus Nikita Koloff.
Yeah.
And then they go to the studio, and there's a bunch of other stuff going on, and they didn't go to the match till later. So the opener, the real opener, was, as the graphics read here, Michael P.S. Hayes and Gorgeous Jimmy versus George South and Tony Suber. So the Freebirds finally got matching gear, including bedazzled forearm sleeves.
Yeah.
There were some tragic haircuts in the audience. A permed, spiked mullet, I think I saw at one point. This went longer than it needed to. South would every once in a while get some offense and then miss a move in a hysterical manner. And finally, the Freebirds pinned Suber with a double spine buster that they called the POMF.
POMF.
Which I can only assume stands for And Casey, we do use profanity on the show sometimes. Piss off motherfucker.
Wow.
That's what I think it stands for.
I figured out the MF, but I didn't know about the PO.
I'm assuming.
Could have been anything.
Maybe
pissed off.
That would work too.
Anyway, all I could get out of this match was that the fans were so into the Freebirds that my conclusion was they were supposed to go like 3 minutes, but the fans were going so crazy for them that they just dragged it out for like 10.
That could be.
And had the time of their lives. But yeah, this was a fine little match. It was what you're going to get out of Hayes and Garvin and two jobbers. I enjoyed it. Casey, your thoughts?
I thought that they wrestled like heels, and I love how Tony and Jim were making excuses for them. Like Jim Ross was saying, these guys are aggressive. They remind me of Arn and Tully, and I'm thinking, yeah, they're Precious is spraying things in the heels' faces and the jobbers' faces, and Teddy Long at one point. He counts to 5. The refs are supposed to stop at 4. If they get to 5, they're supposed to DQ. He actually counted to 5 with Garvin, and before Garvin let up, and he's pushing him back. I'm thinking these guys are heels, and yet the fans love them, and the announcers are making complete excuses for why these guys are being wrestling in this manner. But it was still made for great entertainment.
I think part of the problem is Teddy Long sucked. He was a horrible ref. There's guys out there whacking each other with chairs, and he's just standing there, like you're not allowed to use that chair. Are there no disqualifications in Crockett? I know there are.
He considered it his job only to count 3 and do nothing else.
Sure.
So the Freebirds cut a promo. Jimmy said they couldn't get the Horsemen in the ring. He threatened to smack David Crockett around, or Jim Crockett actually, to get his attention. So Hayes says they get what they want and they got a bad attitude. He starts running down Flair, says he's got Ric Flair's number, and Flair, you know it. And it occurred to me, Michael Hayes right now at this point in time appears to be the top contender to both the World Heavyweight title and the World Tag Team title.
Yes.
Which is actually almost more impressive than being a champion in itself.
Hey.
So good for him.
What I loved about this was the promo took place about, 30 seconds after the match? The very first thing they did after the pinfall was they put their jackets back on.
Yes.
They put their sunglasses back on.
Yes.
They fluffed up their hair, and away they went. I loved it.
Dick Murdoch versus Nikita Koloff for the TV title.
Casey, did you know this was going to be a show with 2 Dick Murdoch matches? Is that why you chose this week?
I knew Dick Murdoch was being heavily featured at the time, and so I figured whatever show I picked was going to have a lot of Dick Murdoch, which is awesome because he's such a great worker.
My God, on this show, he was out of this world in this match. Everyone needs to watch this and study Dick Murdoch. I know that's breaking news in 2018, but it might be for some people that you need to study Dick Murdoch.
You know what's funny is in his squash matches, it's all offense. And so the squash match that he had on the show was like, you got to watch Dick Murdoch to see how he beats the hell out of some geek. Mm-hmm. Okay? In this match, you had to watch his selling.
Oh.
How he sold everything. How, the old Shawn Michaels, it's not the Shawn Michaels spot. I'm sure he probably stole it from Dick Murdoch, but get punched and spit just 20 feet in the air. Get knocked coming off the top rope and fall down and run in a circle like Curly the Three Stooges.
Yeah.
He was so great in this match.
The best thing I can say about him, about his selling in particular, is that he sold stuff more before it happened than you will see guys selling stuff after they've taken a bump in 2018.
The anticipation of doom.
When he goes to the top rope and Nikita grabs him to press slam him off, and his eyes bug out, and he's begging, no. And then he gets thrown off. Even the very first thing they did, Nikita pushes him to the corner, and Nikita just rears back to throw one punch, and Dick drops to his ass and covers up. If he was on the ropes, it would have been a ref stoppage right there. A ref stoppage due to threat of a punch. He was such a fantastic, unlikable coward in this match. It was great.
You know who else did that on this show, Vinny? Your boy Cody Starr.
I will get to Cody Starr.
We'll talk about him later.
I drew some comparisons, actually, between Cody Starr and Dick Murdoch. So there was all sorts of awesome here. One of the things that Murdoch sold so well was he ran into the corner and took a boot to the nose, and I thought, wow, he's selling that boot to the nose great. And then later there's blood pouring out of his nose. I thought, well, that's why he's selling it so great. So the ref gets bumped. Cornette hits Nikita with the racket. A second ref runs in. Nikita kicks out. People are losing their minds. You can't understand how much Dick Murdoch fighting for the number 3 title in this company meant to these people, and I thought Nikita might lose it. So Dusty's at ringside, the Midnights are at ringside, a bunch of other guys are out there. And Murdoch hits the brainbuster, but the time expires mid-move.
Oh.
Which is actually even better than
He had this match won.
Yes. So a brawl breaks out, and all the heels go to break Dusty's arm, but Barry Windham chases them away with Cornette's racket, and this, of course, sets up an obvious six-man, because now you can do Dusty and Barry and Nikita versus the Midnight Express and Jim Cornette. So I loved everything about this with all my heart. It was a joy to watch. It was an honor to watch. It all made sense. There was a payoff, even though the match went to a draw, and it set up the next chapter, which, like I say, is now going to be that six-man. So I loved this.
Well, one of the things about it is it was a very Japanese-style, modern-style match. Like, very rarely do you have the deal in 1988 where ref gets knocked down, some dude hits a guy with a racket, second ref runs in. Usually that's like the finish, or they do a Dusty finish or whatever. This time the guy kicked out. The place goes absolutely nuts. The first half of this match, I was like, nah, it's all right. It's one of these house show matches. It's Dick Murdoch and Nikita Koloff. It's fine. They're working about half speed. By the end of this match, it was so great. Everybody in the crowd is on their feet. They're going crazy for these near falls. And like I said, the heel had it won and got screwed by the time limit. Mm-hmm. Very rare. Casey, your thoughts on this match and Dick Murdoch?
A few thoughts on Murdoch. One is how when he started to do the hammerlock, you look at Dick Murdoch and you say, boy, he's an older, fat guy, and he's going up against this young, big guy in Koloff, and it looks like it should be a physical mismatch. And so he tried to sell things when he did the hammerlock, where he's leaning his body into the hammerlock, he's leaning his shoulder into Koloff's back, that it was going to take that extra effort to get the hammerlock to work. I thought it was just a subtlety that showed how good of a worker he was, that he knew, I've got to tell this story, that I shouldn't be able to just easily take this guy down. I'm going to have to work extra hard to do this. I love that, and I also love how, well, when it came to the production, it looked so early 80s, late 70s production. They had a camera that needed cleaning. You could see like glare on the camera and such, and all these things that would
sounds like our studio right now. Go ahead.
All these things could take away from the production, and yet the characters in the ring are so awesome that you don't think anything of it. They overwhelm the idea of lousy production. Like when the ref bump happened, they were showing panning to the crowd. They missed the ref bump entirely, and yet you knew what had happened, and so it was still just as exciting. So the idea that production is so valuable, it is, but the characters in the ring mean more.
Production is valuable, but like sometimes production like this adds to the whole aura of what you're watching. Like, man, I'm watching an older match. It's kind of like if you watch a movie, like an actual film. Film is 24 frames per second, right?
Sure.
That's what you're used to when you watch a film, okay? They show that same movie at 60 frames. Have you ever gone to a Best Buy or something and got all the TVs right there, and there's some movie that you've seen, but they've got it on that smooth.
Yes.
And you're like, this looks fake. It's like it looks too good. Like a movie is better at 24 frames per second. And this old NWA is better in low, whatever you'd call it. Just video.
A little grimy.
A little grimy videotape. Adds a lot to a match.
Steve Sable of NFL Films used to say that that's why they filmed on film instead of filming in digital formats and things, that there was a certain grain that you would get from filming on film that gave the work some more gravity that you wouldn't get if you recorded it in other methods. So
yeah, it feels epic.
Until the very end.
It feels epic, and it feels larger than life when it's on film.
Nikita cut a promo in the studio. He rattled off all the great names he had wrestled, and I think he actually literally named every man he'd ever wrestled. Just a long list of names. He claimed Dick Murdoch is 6'5" and close to 300 pounds, and he gave me the toughest match I've ever had. So if Dick's 6'5", that means Nikita's like 6'8", by the way.
Dude, if he's 6'5", he's way more than 300 pounds.
That too.
Tell you that much.
So he said Murdoch had tried to break his neck in the past, called Murdoch an egg-sucking dog, and said he'd be willing to face him in a barbed wire match.
How much of Koloff's promos can you understand, Casey?
The words that he wants us to understand. There are words that I think he intentionally tries to enunciate improperly to make sure we don't understand them. So the words that he can understand, I get, but what I don't understand is how can you come across as the Russian Nightmare when you've got that preppy polo shirt look?
Hey, he's been anglicized. Is that the right word? Probably not.
Yankee-sized?
He's been Americanized.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Been living in the the land of the free for a while.
Sure, yeah.
He's discovered shopping malls. Warlord and Barbarian versus Clement Fields and Keith Steinborn. I saw a GIF from a MMA fight, I think a UFC fight this weekend, where a guy grabbed his opponent, did like a double leg, and lifted him up, and he's about to do...
Oh, the Canadian Destroyer.
Yes.
He
looked like he was going to do either a spine buster or a Northern Light suplex, and what he ended up doing was dropping the guy behind him and dropping himself on his own head with the guy's weight on top of him and knocking himself out.
Yes.
Don't do that move. But I bring it up because the Warlord did it here, and he managed to hurt the other guy and not himself. So whoever that UFC fighter is, he is not as good a fighter as the Warlord, and I have video proof of that right here.
Hey, this Warlord's better.
He is.
When we first saw him 3-4 years ago, my God, he was just horrendous. Now he
Yes.
He throws good strikes. He paces himself. He doesn't screw anything up.
Nope.
He still kind of looks a little mechanical.
He's very stiff. He'll never be graceful.
He looks like stop motion photography.
He looks like a Ray Harryhausen production. Yes.
Yes.
But he's big and scary, and it looks like he'd kill you. Let's see. He did also press Keith Steinborn like dead weight. Keith's arms are hanging limp, and Warlord's pressing him over his head.
Yeah, it's dead weight because these two guys sucked.
Oh, there's that too. So this was 1988. Demolition had not yet won the tag titles, but they were a thing. So here's the future Powers of Pain, as they'd be known in the future, and they hit Demolition Decapitation. And then it wasn't the finish. They did the exact same thing with a headbutt instead of an elbow for the win. So that was fun.
Yeah, I love how Clement Fields did not go up one bit for the Warlord. Warlord trying to lift him up for the backbreaker part, and Clement is just like, literally a dead body would have been lighter than Clement Fields. That's how heavy he went up here. It's terrible. These guys sucked. It's our terrible jobbers of the week.
Oh, no, they're not.
Yes, they are, Vinny.
No.
I will defend Cody Starr.
So then we had a promo with Paul Jones and his men hyping up the bench press competition. Barbarian's mohawk was 3 or 4 days past due for a cleanup shave, so his head is just gray. Jones does all the talking, then Ivan Koloff does all the talking, and that was it. It was said they could bench press 700 pounds, they would win $50,000 in Greensboro on the 30th, and there was a lot of yelling, a lot of spitting, and eventually it was over.
He said, if you've never seen a man lift 700 pounds, show up in Greensboro, because I guarantee you'll see it. Casey, what did you think of Paul Jones when you were a youngster? Do you have a new appreciation for him today, or do you still think he sucks?
I have a new appreciation for him today. My first memory of Paul Jones, that was the first main event I ever saw, back in 1976, when I lived in Johnson City, Tennessee. It was me and my brother and my dad and my uncle and my grandma and grandpa. And wrestling what made wrestling special to all of us is it's the only show the whole family could watch. You're talking back in the days when, 12 channels or something of that nature, pre-cable. So it's the one thing we could all sit down and watch together. And so we liked it so much that we went down to Greenville, South Carolina to see a showdown there. And the main event was Dusty Rhodes and Paul Jones challenging Ric Flair and Greg Valentine for the NWA World Tag Titles. So that was my initial memory of Paul Jones, was as a babyface with Dusty challenging for the titles. And I remember him there, and I see him here, and I have a new appreciation for him because of how you guys have pitched the brilliance of his stupidity. The things that he does, it just makes me, when I heard him say barbarian during an interview, he said it like 3 times. I even called my wife, I called Mrs. Scientist over and said, you got to hear this. I said, look, he says barbarian. She just rolled her eyes and laughed too, because he's so delightfully foolish, and I think he knew he was that, and that he could transition from what he was in the 70s to be the good-looking baby face all the girls love to this guy. I think it's a stroke of brilliance.
There's a shot at the end of the show.
It's the Ivan Koloff match.
Yeah, there's just, the camera's looking at him, and he just looks at the camera.
He looks at the camera, and then looks away, and then looks back into it with suspicion.
Yeah, like, why are you filming me?
If he was self-aware of what a complete fool he came off as and what he was appearing on TV, then he's the best performer on the show.
He had to be.
It was spectacular. Ric Flair and J. Dillon come out for a promo. Now, speaking of performances, as performances go, this is on the low end of Flair promos, but it's very important.
It was every Flair promo you've ever seen.
Dillon says something about how they were on a flight with Walter Payton, who is a great football player, Brian, and also appeared with Razor Ramon that one time. But all anyone wanted to look at was Ric Flair when they were on that flight. So Flair starts talking about going to Hawaii. He's going to be hitting on the girls in grass skirts. And then he reveals something. There's been a hole in the Four Horsemen since Lex Luger left. time to fill that hole, and J.J. Dillon has been scouting Barry Windham to put him under consideration to make him the 4 Horsemen.
Oh, man.
And this is, Barry had been Mr. Clean Cut, good old boy from Texas, Dusty Rhodes' unofficial son for years. The first time there had been a hint that Barry Windham may one day turn on his friends and join the forces of evil here with Flair and his pals. So he talks about the glory and the money and the high life Barry Windham would enjoy as long as he was willing to leave those girls in their training underwear.
Ah, the training underwear.
That's
every time.
Creepy.
Yeah. They've used that line many, many times.
Flair has.
Yeah, Flair has.
It's really just him.
Oh, man, here we go.
This is the real star of the show, and I can tell a subject of great debate is about to unfold.
Oh, you're telling me there is.
Ron Simmons versus Cody Starr.
My new favorite jobber of all time.
So Cody's out there.
He's incredibly horrible.
He's a big, I don't know here, big, flabby, fat white guy in a single strap singlet. So one titty's hanging out.
Yep. Blue. Baby blue.
Baby blue singlet like a blueberry.
Yep.
He's got a mullet and a porn stash.
I mean, hold on. We got to just, start. Hold on a second here. This fucking guy, okay, he looks like he does. Okay, first off, he consciously makes the decision to get a single strap
singlet.
Mm-hmm. What the fuck?
I don't know.
Okay. On top of that, everybody knows that black is slimming, right?
I've heard.
So he consciously not only chose a single strap singlet, but a baby blue one.
Yes.
The fuck was he thinking?
I don't know. So on the one side, because it's got the strap, you can just see that it's baby blue, and on the other side, there's no baby blue, and it's worse because he's so white, he's pink, and there's just layers and levels and cushions of flesh. So every time he moves, there's incessant jiggling, and he's in there with Ron Simmons.
Yeah, and you know what's amazing about this match? Ron Simmons looks at this guy in his blueberry-colored single-strapped singlet and his rotund, round physique, and he says to himself, I'm going to give this guy a high spot. He worked a match with this guy.
He did.
This was not a squash. They did high spots. And my God, Cody Starr tried so hard.
Yes, I agree with that.
He tried so hard, and he wasn't just a guy like all these other idiot jobbers that, they grab a hole and they just stand there like lumps, and the other guy does all the work. He was trying to present facial expressions of intense hard work.
Yes.
And he was so horribly great. He would take a bump, he'd come up with his fist cocked, and then he'd take a horrible arm drag. I love this man. I want to see him on every show from this point forward.
When he hit a tackle, and Simmons, of course, no-sold it, and Cody Starr sold this no-sell, so we have that. We had the putting up his fist spot, like you noted. We had when Simmons goes up top, or the up in the ropes for a shoulder block, and Starr, to feed this shoulder block, of course, gets up facing the wrong way and looks around and can't find Ron, and then turns around and gets hit with the move. What else? But the key is, like you say, this is a guy who saw what Dick Murdoch is doing and tried
Great.
very hard to copy him.
Excellent.
And failed.
Hey,
very hard.
You gotta try to be the best.
I admit I could tell he was trying, which actually made it funnier how bad he was.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was Cody Starr, this week's worst wrestler of all time of the week.
I love this match more than any match in 2018 that I've seen anywhere in the world, okay? It wasn't the best.
No.
May have been the worst. But I loved it more than any other match. Casey, I swear to God, if you had not been on this show, we'd still be watching that match right now. I would have rewound that match over and over and over again.
You're right. That Cody's got. It's amazing how much fat could lean out of the top of that singlet. It's like he got a singlet that was. He thought he was a powerlifter and got one 2 sizes too small or something. It's incredible that he could do that. And that Simmons is trying to work a match. He's trying to do things to show, like he's doing the hammerlock takeover and things like, you're doing a hammerlock. Why are you doing a hammerlock takeover? You're a powerhouse. But he's trying to learn how to be a good worker. And I think Cody Starr has spent some time with Action Mike Jackson learning some moves. moves. I think he maybe patterned himself after Dick Murdoch, but I think he spent some time with the king of the jobbers and was trying to learn how.
You're probably right.
Make himself look good
because he's the guy that brought in all the jobbers.
I forgot about that arm drag takedown until you brought it up right now.
This was so much fun. This was so fun. Like, some people, when they want to become a wrestler, they're like, well, I'll get in shape, and then I'll go to wrestling school.
Yes.
And it's always like, well, go to wrestling school, and you'll get in shape, you idiot. If you want to get in shape first, you're never going to get there, okay? This guy, I think he got a small singlet because he's like, I'll make that weight.
Aha.
By the time I debut, I'll fit in that thing. And he didn't. Failed.
Aim for the stars, man. Aim for the stars.
Aim for the stars.
Rock and Roll Express versus Alan Martin and Steve Atkinson.
I studied this match.
I hope you outperform the team of Alan Martin and Steve Atkinson here.
Dude, I do too.
Actually, on one note, I think you should steal Steve Atkinson's platinum blonde bouffant hairdo.
Hey, I'm on my way.
That was immaculate. He had nothing else.
Here's what I got out of this from my study. As the wrestling scientist, I studied this match. Rock and Roll Express, a lot of quick tags.
They do.
A lot of drop kicks. Not a lot of suplexes, although there were one or two. Very, very good at cutting off their opponents and keeping them in their corner. And the double drop kick must be avoided.
Mm-hmm.
No chops, I noticed, which is a benefit to us.
And not used to that kind of offense.
No, they're not. This was fine.
So the Rock and Rolls then cut a promo on the Sheepherders. So they showed a tag match, a different squash match the Rock and Rolls did, where they did not win with the double drop kick. Instead, Robert Gibson hit a back suplex and pinned a guy.
Yeah,
so they don't do suplexes often, Brian, but apparently it's very effective when they do.
It is.
You must keep your guard up.
And I don't like that back suplex, so I got to.
I remember that, actually.
Yeah.
So
never took it. I don't think ever.
I think one time I grabbed you and hit it, and you were very upset.
Yeah.
So, anyway, the Sheepherders attacked, and there was a big to-do. And so Morton promises we're down, but we're not out. We'll be fighting the Sheepherders soon. And then Gibson does some talking, and I don't know why. I didn't understand one thing he said, and that was that.
My favorite part of this was when they claimed that the flagpole was not made of wood. It was made of solid steel.
Uh-huh.
Man, that's a strong flagpole.
If that would have been a solid steel flagpole, it would have been like a powerlifting bar. It would have been like
oh yeah, like the 45-pound bar that you put weights on. Yeah, that's what they should have said.
Yeah, Tully Blanchard and Arn Anderson versus Lee Peak and Ed Franks.
Just such great names.
Lee Peak is like the best jobber name ever.
Lee Peak and Ed Franks.
It's impossible to say or hear the name Lee Peak and not giggle. Yeah. Lee Peak. So the Horsemen beat these fools up in an awesome display.
More like Lee Geek.
See, now you ruined it.
Thank you.
Anyway, the Horsemen were not fucking around out here. They were not out here to fill time. They were not here really to get over. They were here to beat some ass. And they attacked these men and worked them over and destroyed them until they won with a slingshot suplex.
Oh, my God, this Lex Luger promo.
This is no good.
This fucking guy was going along okay, and then he just kept talking. This was like a 15-minute interview that he just went around in circles.
Uh-huh. And also, from the get-go, like sometimes it's okay to yell, sometimes it's okay to be quiet, but Lex is yelling at me from the get-go and never dials it down.
No.
And he's got that classic Lex Luger cadence, where he shouts the last word of every sentence. And then there is a dramatic pause for 15 minutes of this.
Yeah, David should have yanked that mic away.
Somebody should have. There's no director. Was this actually legitimately live television? They couldn't edit this down?
Apparently not.
So he goes on for a while, removes his shirt immediately. Also, by the way, when you're Lex Luger, removing the shirt's your main event spot. You don't do that in your first sentence. So it was funny at first. They interrupted this Lex Luger promo to show another Lex Luger promo.
Where he also started by taking his shirt off.
Yes. So he got in a brawl with the Horsemen. Again, these men were not fucking around. This was a fight. And eventually the Windhams and Italian Stallion and Denny Brown and others were separating them. They go back to the studio, and Lex just goes on forever. I'm not Superman. I need help to fight 3 dudes with chairs. Any one of you I could take on one at a time. But I can't fight 3 dudes with chairs. I'm not Superman. I need some help. There's 3 of you. I'm not Superman. Starts talking about Ollie Anderson. They showed the clip of Ollie running in last week to help him. Lex says it was a shock to me, But I know these horsemen. I'm going to hurt them where it hurts. I'm going to hurt them in the pocketbook. I'm in this for titles. I'm in this for championships. Nothing will stop
you're
my
killing me.
success. He just goes on and on and on. And finally, I'm not making this up, he says something about a one-eyed monster and flexes pecs.
Yeah, I don't know what that was about. Casey, what did you think of Luger when you were a kid? Was he going to be the next big guy?
He was. My overriding thought of Luger, though, was I used to read the aftermags back in the day because it was the only news you could get on the newsstands and things. Again, I didn't know about the existence of the Observer. In fact, I was probably a fan before the Observer, before the Observers came out. But I remember when Luger came out and they had a picture of him. He was in Florida, and they had a little spot in like afters section in his magazine. They had a picture of him in it, just in his shirt and things. You could see all his muscles and things. And I showed it to my wife, and again, we were both 16 at the time or whatever. I remember showing it to the lady who's now my wife, and Mrs. Scientist took a look at it, and you could just see like her tongue just rolled out of her mouth, and just like, wow, And I'm like, that's what Luger. You're a Greek god. You're trying to tell people right now, I'm not Superman. I'm just an average Joe. You're not an average Joe. You're a Greek god, and you should act like a Greek god. You shouldn't be acting like what you're acting like right now. You are something special, and when you try and sell it that you're not, no. Dick Murdoch, I see him as, hey, I've had neighbors like Dick Murdoch. We all have. We can get that he's an average guy. You're not an average guy. People don't see you every day.
I can vouch for what Casey's saying here. Members of my family look much more like Dick Murdoch than they do like Lex Luger.
I wasn't going to say anything, Vinny. I've been to your barbecues.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that too. My brother-in-law may actually be Dick Murdoch, now that I think about it.
He actually might be, except he's alive.
He's got that going for him. Mike Rotunda versus Larry Wayne as Mike Rotunda debuts the Varsity Club gimmick.
God, he's out there in a singlet.
Such a great improvement. He comes out, he's got this University of Syracuse singlet, got the Letterman's jacket, got the marching band music playing. His hair is just immaculately combed. just precise, ready for his yearbook photo. And is in there with Larry Wayne, who at least the good news is he had two straps for his singlet. The bad news is they're still very narrow, running up the middle of his chest. So instead of covering his tits, they just pushed him out to the side. Very unflattering look. Rotunda beat his ass forever and pinned him with a butterfly suplex.
I don't know if there is a flattering look for Larry Wayne.
There may not be. A t-shirt would help.
Sure, yeah.
He's not the first fat guy to wrestle a squash match on Saturday night. So Rotunda and Kevin Sullivan cut a promo.
This was awesome.
It really was. Especially Rotunda by the end. Sullivan is talking about how intense Nikita Koloff is. Because every Kevin Sullivan promo has to get back to Dusty Rhodes eventually. He says Dusty has set up Nikita for failure. And he makes the announcement at the end. We have assigned another member to the Varsity Club, the University of Michigan All-American, Rick Steiner. And as soon as he says this name, Mike grabs the mic and says, it's very important to note I'm the first and inaugural member of the Varsity Club. I'm still the captain, and I played 2 sports at Syracuse. And he says...
And Kevin says, yes, you'll always be my favorite.
Yes, that was his exact quote. You'll always be my favorite. And Rotunda's smiling. He's proud and arrogant of all he's accomplished. A college graduate, unlike these people. It's time for you fans to show me a little respect. Rotunda showed more personality in 30 seconds here than he had in the past 6 months as just Mike Rotunda from Florida.
This is an improvement.
It's great.
This is an improvement. I'll give you that.
Do you remember the Varsity Club, Casey?
I remember the Varsity Club, and notes on this match were that I thought Sullivan was delightfully insane, and Rotunda, he plays, it's odd to be able to do this, but he plays a naive, dorkish jock, and it's perfect for him. It's just, that's exactly the role that he was born to play, and I love when he's so dorky that as he walks off the set after the interview, he trips over David Crockett's microphone.
That's right, and he yanked the mic out of his hand.
Yes. Yeah.
Crockett's like, you're shrugging his shoulders, but you get that sense out of him, like Rotunda, yeah, I'm a college graduate, all these things, and yet he immediately shows you I'm still a naive dork, even though I am this jock. It's great.
He is an unlikable, preppy douchebag who is also a jock. He's the bad guy in every stupid 1980s teen comedy.
Yeah.
Is what he is. So he's a perfect heel for this time. The Horsemen in their sweatshirts came out for a promo. Didn't have a lot to say, actually.
Everybody buried Luger.
Tully says Lex is... Arn warned Lex not to bite off more than he could chew, said he's not on Flair's level, and they laughed off the idea of Ollie being Lex's savior, and that's about it.
Well, Arn said, you can't skip right to Ric Flair, and you're out here talking about how you don't have all this jewelry and women, but that's because you haven't been around long enough to earn enough money to get these things. He says he's got a pretty smile, He's sure his mom and dentist are proud. Now he wants to go to Hollywood, but nobody has any respect for a loser. Harsh words from the Horsemen.
That is what they said.
And I believe Arn said if Luger wanted Flair, he had to go through Arn first.
That's the storyline, yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
I thought
Casey.
JJ was brilliant, though, when he said that the Horsemen have an identity. We know who we are, and you sure don't. When he told Luger that, I think that was a reality thing, that we know who we are as characters. And Luger, in his whole career, he never figured out who he was as a character. Not really. The narcissist probably came closest, but I think they had it there that you haven't figured out who your character is. And if you don't know who your character is, how are you going to tell the people who your character is? I think it was a brilliant insight by JJ.
That's also true. And our main event, I think, wasn't it?
No,
it's
Koloff.
not. My bad. Our semi-main event,
Should have been the main event.
Dick Murdoch versus Dave Spencer.
Man, oh man.
So Dave Spencer is just green as all hell, and there's a lot of guys when they face a green rookie on national TV, and they got to get themselves over. They take some liberties. Kevin Sullivan's one of them, frankly. Dick Murdoch was a pro's pro.
Oh my God. There was one shot with a steel chair to the ribs that was like right in front of the camera. It was so fake.
He's got his hand in front of the chair too, so the chair never actually touched Dave Spencer.
No, and the hand never touched him either.
Yes.
You can't win them all.
So, the highlight of this was the commentary in and out of the ring, as Cornette's ranting about how Murdoch's going to collect the bounty and take out Dusty. And Cornette says earlier on the show, Nikita had called Murdoch an egg-sucking dog. And he didn't know what Nikita had been sucking, but soon he will be sucking Big Bertha, which is Murdoch's right hand.
Man.
And then, at this exact time, Murdoch goes to the brainbuster, and he lifts Spencer high in the air, and he's looking up at him, looking up at the lights, and Spencer's feet are pointing to the ceiling, and suddenly Murdoch just screams, "Dusty Rhodes!" and drops him on his head and pins him.
I loved it.
He's amazing.
And this Dave Spencer's no small dude.
No.
And Murdoch got him up there, and he held him up there. He actually held him up better than like Lashley does. And Lashley's a big,
He's a monster.
dude.
Yes.
Yeah.
Here's a skinny, fat old guy.
God, 2 Dick Murdoch matches on the same show.
I know, we must have done something good this week.
I was in heaven.
So, they go to break and they come back. Cornette says Murdoch is a miserable human being who doesn't get along with anyone, but I found a way to make him play nice. I paid him a lot of money. Murdoch says, he actually said this, "It takes a good man to beat me, but it don't take him long." He plugged his barbed wire match against Nikita and a cage match against Dusty. He threatened to brainbuster Crockett and do the whole locker room a favor. No! Don't brainbuster David Crockett.
Actually, around this time, the locker room probably would have been fine with that.
They might have been.
But running them out of business. All I can think when I watch Murdoch is, first he was white, then he was red, and then he was purple. And he's 8 years away from a massive heart attack and death.
There is that.
Yeah, it was not healthy.
There is that.
It sucked.
Were you a big fan of Dick Murdoch back in the day, Casey?
Hell yeah.
I was a big fan of Murdoch. Did that redneck style and things. I was definitely a big fan of his, and I still wondered. Cornette said he was pitching a Texas barbed wire death match, and I kept thinking, as I'm hearing him say this like multiple times, Texas barbed wire death match. Like, what's the difference between a Texas barbed wire death match and say a New Hampshire barbed wire death match? I don't understand how a Texas barbed wire death match makes it so much different. So I'd like to ask Jim that question someday.
One, the winner gets brisket. The other, the winner gets, I guess, lobster rolls or something. I don't know. I don't know what
There you go.
Now, how about Mike Jackson?
Action Mike Jackson.
That's
Action
right.
Mike Jackson, the king of the jobbers. I mean, what an awesome match he had against Koloff.
He did.
He did. Fantastic match.
So, this actually was great, and it's one. I didn't realize quite how great it was until the very end. I just thought it was funny that Ivan was bumping his ass off for Mike Jackson, even though we all know Mike Jackson's great, and a lot of guys bump their ass off for him because they know he's great too. But Ivan's one of those guys, he does the move, I don't know if it actually has a name, but you lay a guy across the ropes and you run and you sit down on his back.
Sure.
Goldust does it, Bossman does it, who the hell else? A bunch of guys have done it. So Ivan's one of the guys who does this move, and he goes for this move early, and Jackson dodges, and so Ivan ends up bouncing ass first off the middle rope and then backwards into the ring. It was awesome. It was great. They would go back and forth for a while. Here was where Paul Jones was making funny faces in the camera. I don't know if he was doing it on purpose or not. And then finally, Ivan hits that squisher in the ropes that he tried earlier.
The squisher?
I've heard it called that, believe it or not. Nash called it that. He's one of the guys who hit it. So that's where I got it. Anyway, he hit the sickle for the win. So Ivan Koloff upset Mike Jackson.
Man, oh man. What a main event.
Actually, it was a good main event, really.
Yeah. Is he still working? They need another opponent after the Rock
Ivan
and Rolls.
Koloff? No, he's deceased.
Not Koloff. Action Jackson.
Someone told me he's still out there.
I think he is.
Yeah.
I think Action Mike Jackson has a Facebook page that shows he's still training jobbers to this day. In fact, I think not long ago he even did a move off the top rope, which, think about it, 30 years after this, he's the king of the jobbers, man. I love how he puts so much energy, because I always say jobbers should never make it look like they're in on the idea that that they're doing the job. That they should always be fighting, always fighting. He was doing that, and he does it so much that Jim Ross and Tony Schiavone, they're both talking about other parts of the match, and then Jackson puts so much energy into it, they finally have to put him over. They say he's the Alabama junior heavyweight champion. He has 2 master's degrees. They start talking about how good Mike Jackson is. So, like, the jobbers, that's how you do it.
Reminds me a lot of Cody Starr.
What a tragedy it would be if he ever lost the Alabama Junior Heavyweight Championship.
Oh, man. I don't know if he still has it or not. He may.
As far as I know.
For all I know,
I'm looking at the top 10 contenders and see how maybe I can get a shot. Junior Heavyweight? Never mind.
Yeah, you're out of luck.
Put up highlights of the Road Warriors, Barbarian, and Warlord on a split screen. So look at these awesome men. One of them has to be the strongest man in all of wrestling, and we're going to find out who on January 30th in Greensboro at the bench press competition.
God, I hope they show this on TV.
Oh, they will.
They've been building it up for so long. Like, we got to see this.
I've seen it, so it must have been on.
Well, they got
one
so
of these
many shows.
Yeah,
so I hope it's on this one.
Yeah,
they can't not. You know what I mean? They've been plugging it here for so long. They've got to show it.
It's a big enough deal. I'm sure they showed it and everything. So
God, what a great job of promotion.
So, yeah, that was the end of the show. I know Dick Murdoch's in the Hall of Awesome like 3 times already, but we can double that and induct him 3 more times tonight if you want
to. Has anyone been put in the Hall of Awesome more than Dick Murdoch?
We need to start taking people out.
No, I can't go that far. We only got like 9 people in. Maybe.
And there will be gorilla shit all over the army.
How convenient.
NWA World Championship Wrestling from January 23rd, 1988. Out of the studio again at the Richmond Coliseum in Richmond, Virginia.
You know, there's some things about them getting out of the studio that I like. Mm-hmm. Like the main event angle when the women are just screaming at the top of their lungs was like really cool. Made it seem like a hot angle. Mm-hmm. There's some things I like better about the studio. I don't know. Just seems more...
It's got a charm.
I don't like this change.
Well, there's a change also. We do fear change as primitive creatures. That's also true.
Yeah, I don't like this moving into a big building and... Man.
Yeah.
We'll see.
We'll see how it goes. So they plug the Bunkhouse Stampede on pay-per-view tomorrow night. And yes, the Rock and Roll Express opened the show against Tommy Angel and Cougar J. The Rock and Roll is facing the Sheep Herders at the pay-per-view, which actually is big news.
Dude, where's my cable bill?
Because...
Big news?
It's big news that pay-per-view actually exists. Because as you watch the announcers plug this show, they're explaining to fans almost what pay-per-view is and who does and does not have access to it.
Yeah, well, I mean, before they'd done, closed circuit stuff, so you actually had to leave your house.
Yes.
You had to go somewhere. Mm-hmm. Now they're explaining if you have got the proper cable setup,
yes,
you can sit in your living room and watch all of these matches, including the Rock and Roll Express versus the Sheep Herders.
Which does sound awesome.
Which was just my dream match.
Mm-hmm. So, this match was not the Sheep Herders.
Is this on the network?
It's all WCW pay-per-view should be.
Man, I'm going to have to go see.
You want me to check?
I'm going to have to find that match.
All right.
Because if ever there's a match that reminds me of myself and Filthy Tom Lawler versus the Rock and Roll Express, it's undoubtedly the Rock and Rolls versus the Sheep Herders.
Right.
Yeah. So I'll need to watch it and see what happens. All I do is I study these matches. Like, I studied this match here, and one of these geek jobbers, I'm not sure which numbskull it was, but clearly very early on he fucked something up. And I don't know what it was, but I think maybe he was supposed to block a hip toss, and he forgot, and he just did a flip anyway.
Yeah.
But he fucked something up, and Ricky Morton is so smooth that he just moved right on to the next spot like nothing happened. This was comforting to me.
You have a margin for error?
I could be Tommy Angel or Cougar J.
You didn't think going into this that the Rock and Roll Express would be able to cover up from a mistake?
Well, no, but I mean, I watched it here with these two shitheads. I'm way better than both of them. So if they could cover up for Tommy Angel or Cougar J, I'm all right.
What do you have to worry about?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, Tommy Angel and Cougar J did in fact fuck a lot of stuff up, and it never was a big deal. They just kept going. And I'm sure.
I mean, they suck, dude. Like, if I come back and I'm that bad, like, I fucked up somewhere. There's no way I could be that bad.
The highlight of this match was actually they started doing crowd shots, and Jim Ross says, "We got a good look here to some of our excited Virginia fans." And there's a group of people who are sitting there with blank expressions, and then in the middle of it, there's just a woman walking up the stairs with her popcorn and beer.
I'm dying
back
over
to
here.
the camera. So they
cut to a crowd shot to show some woman walking to her seat with concessions.
Yeah.
Not everything was great back then.
Not everything was great. So the Rock and Roll...
Not even like a real good-looking woman. It was just a random woman.
I couldn't even see her face.
Walking up the stairs with, like, popcorn.
Yeah.
All right.
They cut to that. So the Rock and Rolls kept on trying. This is the other thing. If you do fuck something up, they won't hold it against you, and they'll just move on to whatever they're going to try next.
Sure, yeah.
Eventually, they won with the double dropkick.
Formidable opponents.
The Rock and Roll Express?
Yes.
Well, they are, in fact, the greatest team of all time.
Yeah, they are.
So
I saw it here tonight with this match with Tommy Angel and Cougar J.
They were at their
that
best.
should have got him in the Hall of Fame right there. They were working an uphill battle with these two numbskulls.
A severe handicap. David Crockett interviewed Michael Hayes. Only Michael Hayes. He says there's no Jimmy Garvin, no gorgeous Jimmy this week, and no
I just don't like him randomly in the aisle. I like when they go to the desk.
There should be an interview...
like a set.
Like the platform that you had on Superstars back in the day.
Sure. Somewhere where you go.
Or they've got a set that's got the logo behind them. But yes,
Yeah.
they just stick these guys in a random blank spot in the crowd and hand them a mic and say, go to work. So Hayes explains that he's there alone this week. There's no gorgeous Jimmy. There's no squeeze because they refuse to leave the house. And he explains they're busy.
Yeah, they're busy. For a whole week.
Well...
They can't travel here to this show.
Yeah, I think
he's lucky nothing happened to him.
By busy, he implied they were,
Yeah, they were fucking.
Yeah.
That's what I was implying, too.
Okay. So, Hayes talked about Lex Luger throwing a monkey wrench into the Horsemen's fine-tuned machine, and somehow he and Jimmy were going to take advantage of their disadvantage, and they were going to win the tag team titles. Sting versus Gladiator number 1.
Who was this Gladiator? This... fat little... He looked like a fat little mini.
We've seen the Gladiators a lot. This Gladiator...
He was so
did he
short.
Shrink a foot?
He looked like Super Porky in there.
It was really weird.
Except Porky was too tall.
Yeah.
Just a short little butterball, all dressed in blue.
And apparently, if Sting is to be trusted, he's also ugly.
Yeah.
And the fans were trying to take the mask off, and Sting says he's too ugly for that.
This looked like Super Porky versus Andre the Giant. That's what this looked like here.
No, it didn't.
Yeah, it did.
It did not look like Andre the Giant.
Well, when he was young. Maybe not at the end, but, I mean, this is just a preposterous size difference.
It was, in fact, preposterous. Your
like, are there no height limitations or weight limits here?
Well, they may have been in the same weight class.
And no, maybe they were. Now that I think about it. He was very fat, but man, he was short.
He was incredibly short. So, Sting did some stuff. The Gladiator hit one clothesline. Sting completely no-sold it, hit the Stinger Splash, and the Scorpion for the win. And then Schiavone gets in the ring to interview Sting. And Sting promos in 1988 are always fun.
He's a crazy guy.
Yes, he's completely out of his mind insane. And neither you nor he know what he's going to say from one word to the next. So he calls out Flair, says he's going to keep calling out Flair every week until Ric Flair answers him.
And the announcers did spend the entire match putting over Sting and what might happen. Mm-hmm. What might happen if he gets Ric Flair in that Scorpion deathlock.
And he screams, and he shouts, and he hollers, and he grunts, and he groans, and he thanks the fans for giving him the energy. They're never boring, these Sting promos.
No, and the fans were going crazy for this guy. They were very excited for his challenge of Ric Flair.
Warlord and Ivan Koloff. Not Barbarian and Warlord.
No.
Warlord and Ivan Koloff versus Mark Fleming and Bob Riddle.
So a lot of times I'm writing stuff and then the next match starts, and so I don't see who's in the match. And so I'll say, who's in this match, Vinny? And you'll respond, whoever it is. Honest to God, I looked at the screen, and they had shot Ivan Koloff from the back and from down below, and they'd zoomed in. And I thought it was King Kong Bundy. It's bizarre.
It is.
And then you're like, it's Warlord and Ivan Koloff. And I was like, God damn, that is Ivan Koloff.
If you took King Kong Bundy and shrunk him by a foot and took away his fat, he would look a lot like Ivan Koloff. He gave him a beard and made him Russian. But other than that, they're exactly the same.
Well, I mean, they made Nikita Koloff Russian. He's as Russian as King Kong Bundy is.
It's actually true.
So
Ivan's Canadian.
And this Mark Fleming.
So yeah, these guys sucked. And
very fitting today, as I got nothing but phlegm in my throat.
Bob Riddle, I'm pretty sure no relation to Matt Riddle. These guys sucked, and Warlord has improved to the point where he's just boring.
Yeah, he just does nothing.
He does like one press slam and nothing else he can fuck up, but then nothing else to make fun of either.
There's a moment here, by the way, that Jim Ross is alerting us that the Warlord and the Barbarian are number 4 in the tag team rankings. And he says, Warlord and Barbarian are number 4 in the tag team rankings, which you can check out today by going to... I'm waiting for him to plug a website. But it's 30 years ago. What does he say because there are no websites? He says, by going to the NWA Almanac.
Ah, yeah, okay.
Like the fucking old Farmer's Almanac.
Yes.
You go to your goddamn grocery store and you can get the NWA Almanac and find out who the number 4 team in the NWA is. And it's Warlord and Barbarian. What?
Which begs the question...
Who are the other 3?
Well, that too.
Who's below them?
If Warlord and Barbarian are number 4, then why is Warlord teaming with Ivan Koloff in this match?
Well, Barbarian was... I don't know, he was on the show.
There.
Yeah, I guess
he was in the building. He had his gear. So they beat these guys up. It wasn't very good. They used a chain every once in a while just because they could. And they won with a backbreaker Russian hammer combo. The Spam Slam of the week was Bobby Eaton hitting Rocky King with an Olympic slam.
So I've concluded something here.
All right.
And that is that if I ever for some reason decide I'm going to pay the $50,000 or $30,000 or $12,000, whatever it is, to advertise on Monday Night Raw. Like we're going to advertise the website on Monday Night Raw. It's got to be something completely fucking preposterous. So years from now, when they're going through and editing out all the commercials, they can look back and go, that commercial's funny. We're going to leave that one in.
I see.
Because that's what they do on the network, if you notice. If you go back to the old shows. If there is a funny or memorable or legendary commercial, they will leave it in.
I see.
But everything else they'll cut out. So you got to come up with something unique.
So your website's still being advertised 30 years in the future.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Spam! It still exists.
Oh, it does.
Yeah, they're getting advertising here in 2018.
J.J. Dillon and Ric Flair came out for a promo. Dillon was stunned, beside himself, that Sting would have the gall to call it the world champion on national TV. What is the man thinking? Dillon asks. And Flair says Sting is just like the rock and rolls. He's messing around with those girls in training bras.
How many interviews? What's going on in Crockett here in 1987 and 88? Every week somebody's talking about little girls in training bras.
It used to be, because who's the first person you used it with?
Flair.
Flair, he was talking about somebody else. Oh,
he
Morton.
seems to...
He was talking about Ricky Morton.
Okay.
He was feuding with Ricky Morton and saying, what he said at the time was, the only people who cheered for Morton was the little girls in training bras.
Yes.
The women liked him.
Yes.
Okay, that's fine. Over the last year or whatever, it has gone from the girls in training bras liking the wrestlers to the wrestlers liking the girls in training bras, which is so much creepier.
There has been a big change here.
Yeah, someone needed to go back to Rick and get him back on course, and I don't think they ever did.
No.
So he plugged the Bunkhouse Stampede, his title match against Hawk. So
that wouldn't fly here in 2018.
No, this line
Roman Reigns cutting that kind of promo. Seth, you and all those little girls in their training bras.
They go to commercial immediately.
Yeah.
They came back, Roman himself would apologize.
It'd be all over.
Yeah.
Think about even 10 years ago, Flair cut that promo about virgins and making them bleed. Remember that? And boy, he got some heat for that.
Yeah.
He tried his NWA stuff in WWE in 2008, and it did not fly.
It was the 20 years later thing that I think was more than the company. So here, back in 1988, he says the Bunkhouse Stampede winner will get $500,000. Promises Tully and Arn will beat all the other badasses and take that money home. I was most impressed that the Bunkhouse Stampede has 11 different men competing in it, and he got all of them. He remembered every single one of them before mentioning Tully and Arn would win. It was nothing special, but an average Ric Flair promo was still fun.
Are you filming all this, Tony? Just a disaster. I am a mess.
Do you have allergies?
I've had a cold for like 3 or 4 days now.
We have had winter weather.
Oh, God, it's just
Hailstorms
horrible. No, what
and
we
thunder.
had is I have a 2-year-old that I took to the jumpy place.
Well, there's that too.
Yeah.
Well, I hope she had fun at the jumpy place.
She had a hell of a time at the jumpy place, but now we're all suffering.
I see.
Just trying to survive one show at a time.
The Sheep Herders versus Larry Stevens and Trent Knight. I believe it was Trent Knight who was horrible here.
Oh, I got stuff about Trent Knight.
Well, this is the time to share.
All right, well, he's a fucking worst. I mean, he's just absolutely fucking horrible. Got the worst strikes you've ever seen. And I watched CM Punk's fight last night, and I'm saying that. So I Google, because I got to make sure I'm burying the right fucker, and I Google Trent Knight NWA. And lo and behold, what comes up first? But there was, back in the day, Crockett had a series of trading cards. Ric Flair,
Sure.
Arn Anderson, Tully Blanchard, Road Warriors, and fucking Trent Knight.
The Trent Knight trading card.
A Trent Knight trading card. Number 253, I might add. Height 6'1", weight 218. Color of eyes, blue.
Oh, wow.
Color of hair, blonde. Number of years in pro wrestling, 1. Favorite wrestling hold, figure 4.
Oh, really? He has a finish.
Yeah. Well, he doesn't have a finish. It says his favorite hold.
I see, okay.
Doesn't necessarily mean he's ever beaten anybody. Toughest opponent, Tully Blanchard. Favorite old-time wrestler,
Oh, no.
superstar number 1. Amateur wrestling experience, high school.
Superstar number 1, not
Yeah.
masked superstar?
Nope, just superstar number 1. I guess they only had so many lines. Favorite pro sports team, the Pittsburgh Steelers. Favorite college sports team, North Carolina Tar Heels. Favorite vacation spot, Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Favorite recreation, weightlifting. Hobbies.
How long is this card?
Oh, there's
This
plenty
card,
more.
This 8-foot tablet size or what?
Hobbies? None. Favorite food? Steak. Favorite dessert? Ice cream. Is this me? Just thought about that.
You also have a hobby.
Favorite color? They interviewed this man and they said, hey, Trent Knight, what's your favorite fucking color? Red. Did he wear any red during the match? No, he wore all blue. Favorite song? Now, I just want to point out here.
This is all on one card.
Yeah, there's favorite song and favorite singer. His favorite singer, Trent Knight, is Janet Jackson.
Wow.
However, his favorite song? None. Favorite movie?
Oh,
Deer
God,
Hunter.
okay, we get it.
Favorite actor? None. And favorite actress? None. You know how much that goddamn card's got to be worth nowadays?
Not much.
Trent Knight.
All I know is, all I can add to this is that if you Google Trent Knight trading card, it comes up with the WrestleCrap article, somebody bought this.
Yeah.
Someone bought this, the Trent Knight NWA trading card.
That was a lot of information I got about this guy.
And so useful,
Yeah.
if only it had been a series of numbers.
Trent Knight.
Well, he was no good as a pro wrestler,
No, terrible. But he'd only been in a year.
and no longer.
I mean, maybe there was hope.
Yeah. They beat him with the double gutbuster, whatever. We've talked about this too much already. David Crockett interviewed the Road Warriors, so Animal goes first. And if you've been listening to this show for any length of time, you know the Road Warriors promos have a formula. Animal talks and says, "Tell him, Hawk." Hawk says something wacky and says, "Tell him, Paul." And Ellering finishes him up, and they go about their way.
Or there is a second one, which is the one we got tonight, which is Hawk says something fucking awkward, and there's dead silence.
Yeah.
And
Hawk-
then Paul Ellering realizes he has to say something, and he's unprepared, and so he just bumbles something out.
Yes. Hawk this week, and to be fair, he is challenging for the world title.
But let's get through Animal first.
All right, Animal. Animal's always a straightforward guy. He's always as mean and angry and threatening. We're gonna win the Bunkhouse Stampede. We're gonna try to break the world record of 705 pounds at the bench press contest.
He says, we've never claimed to be the strongest guys in the world, but you know what? Given the chance, we'll break that record.
We'll go for it if we can.
Yeah.
So good for them. And he says, tell him Hawk. And Hawk this week, instead of being wacky, he's never a total goof, but there's always a devil-may-care attitude, we'll say, to the Hawk promos. This week he's trying to be straight serious because he's challenging for the World Heavyweight Championship in 24 hours.
Yeah, singles title.
So I get it. And he points out it's a singles title. He says, I don't need my brother here. I don't need any help to beat you in a singles match, Ric Flair. All I need is my muscles. All I need is my heart. And he goes on for a while, and he closes things up by saying, if I ever lost a $1,000 bet to Ric Flair, I wouldn't pay it.
Well, no, what he said was, there's a difference between me and you, Rick. And I'm thinking, yeah, there's 1,000 of them. But he goes, the difference is, if Rick and I made a $1,000 bet and I lost, I would not pay him. But if he lost, he'd pay me. What? And literally
they all looked at each other.
There is an awkward silence.
Much like we're looking at each other
like
now.
Nobody can understand what in the fuck was his point. What did he just say?
I don't know.
And then Paul has to jump in and try to save
I didn't
this.
write down what Paul said.
And Hawk literally says it, and he looks at the camera, and then just goes. He turns around.
Hopefully Hawk does not cut any more serious promos. I have a new appreciation for his wacky promos. They're just better.
This was pretty fucking wacky.
Actually was in its own way. Speaking of wacky, Jim Cornette comes out managing his tag team of Sweet Stan Lane and Captain Redneck Dick Murdoch.
What a team.
The Midnight Rednecks. The pretty boy from Myrtle Beach and the redneck from Texas. They're in there against Andrew Bellamy and Stan Cruz. By the way, 2 Stans in the same match. That's got to be a first.
It's not.
Come on now. Could have found Stan Stasiak in a 6-man. So, Cornette goes to join the commentary team, but the first thing Murdoch does is grab one of these geeks and slam him in the announce desk, and so Cornette just goes, ah! And runs away. He's terrified of his own man.
I would be too.
Yes.
It's Dick Murdoch.
Murdoch's choking this dude with a mic cord. His own eyes are bugging out. The other dude tags in, and Murdoch says, Stan! Stan grabs him for a leg sweep. He's going to do a Russian leg sweep. And before he can hit the move, Murdoch says, Stan! Outside! Stan says, all right. And he throws the dude outside. Murdoch beats him up with a chair. And finally, Murdoch gets in the ring. He does one brainbuster. Bellamy almost fucked this up, which would have been fatal, but Murdoch controlled him and dropped him on his head safely and pinned him.
He pins him, he makes the cover, and he's looking in the camera, and he's smiling, and he's laughing, and he is so full of joy to have dropped this fucker on his head. And later they did a promo, and he's smiling, and he's laughing, and he cut a great promo, but he wasn't angry like usual. So the only thing that I can conclude is that he drank a shit ton before this show.
That's also possible. I was going to say in storyline, he's happy with all the money that Cornette's paying him.
Well, he should have been happy for every week then. I mean, this has been an ongoing storyline. He's getting all this money.
That's true.
There was something different this week.
Your boozy theory holds up.
Yeah, he was very boozy.
Crockett interviews Dusty Rhodes, plugs the Bunkhouse Stampede.
He says, I'm a 2-time winner of the Bunkhouse Stampede. I'm the bull of the woods. I demand everyone buy this on pay-per-view, watch it in the comfort of their own home. And he says, some people claimed I backed in this year, but I'm going to walk out frontwards.
Yeah. Yeah.
Says, where I grew up, the entire block wasn't worth $500,000. My daddy never made $500,000 in his lifetime, but I'm going to win $500,000 tomorrow night. And it's going to take a mighty big man to take the title. Bull of the woods away from me. I don't know who it is. I could look it up.
Who wins the Bunkhouse Stampede?
Yeah.
Well,
I presume he doesn't win a third time, does he?
I guess we'll find out next week.
Man, I can't wait.
Yeah.
Do you know?
I do.
Really?
I think I do. It has been almost 30 years.
Yeah.
A little more now, but...
I hope it's Murdoch.
Is he in it?
I don't think so.
It's like the Barbarian and...
I'd like him to get in there.
Steve Williams.
Yeah.
Would you try if he went out there, would you try to keep him out?
No, I just like him to just enter.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Paul Jones and his army joined Schiavone for a promo.
They have so many fuck finishes in Crockett at this point that you may as well just have this fucking guy walk in and beat everybody, even though he never won one before and didn't qualify. Why not?
It would fit in. I want to talk about Paul Jones. Paul Jones explains.
Oh, God.
Paul Jones, number one Paul Jones, the man whose nickname was based on arithmetic, tries to do some math here. The first sentence out of his mouth. The odds in this battle royal are either 9-1 or 11-1. What?
Yeah. I mean, they're either one or the other.
What?
Maybe he was using Bodog and...
I see. So he explains he's got 3 men in the Stampede.
All I know is I love Paul Jones, okay? Mm-hmm. But that opening segment talking about the odds, I would have preferred if he said, there's 4 guys, and they all have a 25% chance of winning. And that is my number one pet peeve in WWE. That's how badly he fucked this up.
Yes. So he says he's got 3 men in the Stampede. He's got the Warlord, the Barbarian, and Ivan Koloff. And he says his odds are much better than that. Ivan, he says, are my men ready? And Ivan is so great.
I love Paul Jones, though. He's the man in charge. You know what I mean?
He's so like the general. It's his army.
He's the general, and then, Ivan Koloff has got a role underneath Paul Jones.
He's lieutenant.
So Paul can't just say, my men are ready. Mm-hmm. He has to say, Ivan.
There is a chain of command.
Are my men ready?
Yes.
Ivan is like, yes.
Yes, as their coach, as their trainer, I promise you, Paul Jones, they are ready. The Road Warriors will be embarrassed in this bench press competition. In this victory, we will take that $50,000 very happy. But the victory is more important because we want to prove to all the people that the Road Warriors are not the strongest team in the world.
I love that line. Even though there's $50,000 on the line, the win is more important than the money. That's what this means to them.
And that would be great, too, but the win's important because he wants to prove the fans wrong.
Yes.
Everything about that's perfect. So he says this. He says his line, we are proved the Road Warriors are not the strongest team in the world. And there is a pause of that long. It's not like a long, awkward pause like after Hawk Talk earlier, but there is a slight pause. And all Tony has to do is say, folks, we'll be right back, and they'll go to commercial. But Paul Jones can't let that happen. He's just standing there in the background, and he has to stand up and say, that's it!
Yes. And then the Warlord turns to the Barbarian, and he's like, going to say something? But he doesn't. They're the greatest awkward team of fucking geeks. I love them.
The 2 big guys never speak.
Yes.
No more communication than... It's all because there's 50,000 in the bench press competition and $500,000 in the bunkhouse stampede. This is all totally unnecessary and also totally awesome.
You know when you're a little kid and, you see Kamala, and, Kamala never talks, and he tries to pin a guy when he's on his stomach, and, you know deep down that he's just some fella playing Kamala.
Yeah.
But then there's that party that's like, God, if I ever heard him talk, it would just be weird. I'm not positive that he can speak.
Warlord?
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
No, but I'm bringing this up for Barbarian here, okay?
Okay, yeah.
So, you never see Barbarian talk. And in my whole life, I've seen him cut one promo in World Championship Wrestling where he said, we will eat you lunch in the most horrendous broken English. So I mean, he's lived here forever. I presume he speaks fluent English. But I mean, the point is, I have no proof. Okay? I've never seen it myself. Just like Flip Gordon has never seen the Earth from space. He's never been in outer space. Okay? He's not sure it's round. Okay? I'm not fucking sure this guy can speak English. Well, anyway, point of this is, we had a fella call into Observer Live the other day. He'd gone to a Legends reunion or whatever, and he sat down and he spoke to the Barbarian.
Oh.
And the Barbarian told him how much he missed Paul Jones.
Aww.
He loved Paul Jones. But it suddenly struck me, he speaks.
Yeah.
So I guess over all these years he's learned. I don't know when he learned.
How disappointing this must be for you.
He had me so convinced in the mid-'90s that he could not speak any English. When he did that promo, we will eat you lunch, which is still one of my favorite promos of all time. I can't wait till it comes up. I hope it's not on Thunder, or we're going to have to watch every one till I find it.
That would be the name of the show.
Yeah.
Brian and Vinny in search of that one Barbarian promo.
Yep. It'll be worth it. I watched it so many times when I was a kid, over and over again.
Oh, God. Arn Anderson versus George South. Arn won with a gourd buster in 2 minutes.
Is George South available today? I think he is.
Probably.
Man.
I can't imagine why he wouldn't.
I'm amassing a list for Black Label Pro.
Maybe Brian Alvarez hit parade.
Yeah, I got the Rock and Roll Express, George South.
What you should do...
Shawn Michaels.
Yeah, good luck with that one. You're taking on the best tag team of all time in the Rock and Roll Express. You need to find, like, George South and Cougar J and face the worst tag team of all time.
Well, the worst tag team of all time would not involve George South.
No.
He's actually pretty good.
You can call them that.
Yeah, I mean, we'd have to go back up here to the top. Where are these other two shitheads? Larry Stevens and Trent Knight, they'd be in there. Mark Fleming and Bob Riddle. I mean, there's a lot of options. Tommy Angel and Cougar J, that's going to be tough to top. I mean, oh my God.
So anyway.
Tom and I just running through these geeks, one geek team at a time. I'd do it.
Yeah, who wouldn't?
But I mean, they'd have to pay me to do like 1 minute. Because I ain't going 10 minutes with those guys. No chance.
So Arn and JJ joined Crockett for a promo. JJ talks about the financial rewards at stake tomorrow night at the Nassau Coliseum. Even in our tax category, he says, $500,000 will get your attention. And it's so much money that it doesn't matter which one of us wins. We can split it. There's plenty to go around for everyone. So Arn moves on to Lex Luger, who was in the Stampede Finals as well. He says, Lex, you have everything you need to be a star in this business, except relationships. I have a strong relationship with Tully Blanchard. Tully has a strong relationship with Ric Flair. Flair has a strong relationship with JJ. We've all got each other's backs, and that's going to serve us well in the Stampede Finals, where it's every man for himself, but we will fight as a unit.
I did love his final line. While you're bench pressing, by God, we're winning all the money.
He did say that. Ron Garvin versus Gene Ligon, where the graphics identified as Andrew Bellamy.
Who had also fought earlier in the show, but he was in a different building. So I thought it could have been the same guy. Yeah.
Anyway, Ronnie beat him up, hit the knockout punch, and the Garvin stomp for the win.
Nothing to add.
No. Cornette, Lane, and Murdoch joined Crockett for a promo.
Here's Murdoch again. He's all excited.
Well, he's excited because, as Cornette explains here, he's trying to be as polite as possible. There's a point in commentary, by the way, where he talked about the just the scum of the earth honky tonks where he had to go to get Murdoch and pay his bill and get him out of there. So Cornette says, almost calls him Mr. Murdoch, but he says, listen, we're paying you a lot of money. We're happy to do it, but I got to go over some of these items in your expense report. And there's like chewing tobacco and liquor store runs and honky tonks and saloons all over the place.
I love the idea that they're paying him $75,000
plus expenses,
but they're a little concerned about all that chewing tobacco.
Well, it was hundreds of dollars worth. So Murdoch just smiles through the whole thing. He's well aware that he's spending all their money, but he's going to be worth it in the end. And Cornette says, he finishes saying, as long as you take out Dusty Rhodes at the end of this, it'll all be worth it. He also adds that before he faces Dusty, Murdoch's facing Nikita Koloff in the barbed wire fence match. And if you take Nikita out there, then there'll be nobody to save Dusty later, and Dusty will be done for.
Murdoch's all excited about this barbed wire match.
I work with barbed wire every day in the ranch in Texas. I know how tight it gets, how it can slice up a man like lunch meat. He vows to take care of Dusty, take out Nikita, take out Ronnie Garvin too, and anyone else Cornette wants as long as he's paying him $75,000.
He mentions every day he works with this barbed wire, and there's one thing a man does not fear, and that's his own shadow. I presume that means he's not afraid of barbed wire.
I guess.
I don't know.
Lex Luger did a promo about the Windham Blanchard main event. It wasn't very good, but there was a point to it, which is to establish that Lex is at ringside for this. Or actually, he was 30-some yards away, but you can see the ring in the distance behind him. So the main event of this show was Barry Windham versus Tully Blanchard for the Western States Heritage Championship, a title I can't believe still existed this long.
You know, I just watched that Omega Okada match, which you're going to be watching on Thursday for the potpourri.
Yay!
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
And this was not as good.
No.
But, I mean, I watched these
I haven't
NWA...
seen it, by the way, I can just tell.
I watched these NWA main events, and it does remind me of watching New Japan. It's like the same style of wrestling, old school championship professional wrestling. Bunch of different guys, they're all different, they all do different things. The buildings are a little darker. It's not like WWE with the nice production and the nice lighting. It looks very much the same. Big difference is these fucking shitty fucking finishes.
This was a terrible... Well, this was a terrible finish, but there was
it's
a point
creative.
Yeah.
But here's the problem. You can have, like, a creative idea, okay? This was a very, very creative idea. I actually, in a vacuum, this finish was fucking great. But they do it all the fucking time.
Yes.
It's just constant.
They love to have champions get beaten, but not lose.
Well, the other thing is, like, can we just, like, have some people lose? It's very much like I was thinking about this when I was watching this New Japan show. So, in WWE, all they do is they tell you, wins and losses don't matter. If you're Kofi Kingston, they'll just tell you, wins and losses don't matter. They tell all these guys, wins and losses don't matter. Everybody just trades wins back and forth. But you know what? You know who doesn't trade wins very often? Roman Reigns.
Oh.
And Brock Lesnar and Braun Strowman. And Ronda Rousey. Because, like, they know that wins and losses do matter. But they tell the undercard geeks that they don't matter. Okay? But the problem is when you're watching the show, because of the way that they do things with their top stars, like, they convince you that wins and losses matter.
Yeah.
The guys that lose all the time are fucking geeks.
Yes.
Okay? The guys that never lose are the stars. And the guys that lose here and there are like your upper mid-carders. And it really hit me when I watched New Japan. Like, Okada lost. But it wasn't about Okada's loss. I hope I didn't spoil it for you. It was about Omega's win. Mm-hmm. And like everybody that lost on the show, in New Japan, you're not a fucking geek if you lose.
No.
It's like a sport.
Yeah.
Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. If you're Okada, you go on a long, legendary streak of wins. But you know what? One of these days you're going to fucking lose. And you know what? It's not a big fucking deal because everybody loses.
And kind of emphasizing your point, Okada's streak was legendary because he was the only one who was winning all the time.
Yeah.
Omega had a loss here and there. Lost the title to Jay White.
So anyway, here we are with this Barry Windham Tully Blanchard match. You can't just have one of these fucking guys lose.
You can't
we have to have another fucking bullshit fuck finish that we've seen 50,000 fucking times. It's infuriating.
So here's what happened. You go a half hour. And it wasn't terrible, but it was not a match that needed to go a half hour. I think I did hear some boring chants for a while when Tully had the heat there. So they start rattling off the time remaining at the 5-minute mark. And we get to about 28 minutes left, or 28 minutes gone, 2 minutes left, when Barry hits the lariat out of nowhere. He makes a cover, but before the ref can even count, J.J. Dillon rings the bell. Ding, ding, ding.
Now, initially, you're not supposed to know that. All you know are there are a couple of minutes left. Barry hits this lariat. The ref actually counted 1, he counted 2, and the bell rings. So initially you think, fucking time limit expired.
Well,
Son of a bitch.
If you're not paying attention, because they just said 2 minutes left about 10 seconds before this.
Well, sure.
So the announcers immediately start screaming their head off. Dillon rang the bell, Dillon rang the bell. And then Luger, who they've established was watching and close by, he runs down, he stooges off JJ. And then something revolutionary happens. They have the referee watch the monitor on instant replay. The first time ever, they say.
I know. You couldn't just send the referee to the timekeeper and have the timekeeper go, it was 28 minutes, the other fucking guy rang the bell. What the fuck does instant replay have to do with anything?
Well, because it was new, they showed way too much in this replay. They went back like a minute farther than they had to. But eventually they get to the point where, in the background, you can in fact see J.J. Dillon ringing the bell. And the ref sees this from the floor. He points in the ring and says, restart the match. So, as soon as he says this, Tully kicks Barry in the knee, like a dick. And he hooks a small package, and the ref dives in to count 1 and 2, but then Lex is there to stop him from counting. And say what you will about this being a bullshit finish and not getting a good end to this match. When Lex came into the ring, the heat...
Like I said, in a vacuum, it's a fucking awesome finish.
Everything peaked.
These
Just
fans
the right noise is all you could hear.
Went so crazy. And why did they go crazy? Because Lex saved Barry.
Yes.
He prevented him from being beaten.
From losing the prestigious Western States Heritage Championship belt.
They go batshit crazy. They're peaking the mics. Think about what they had to do to peak those mics. They're like underneath the ring or something. It's not like they're on everyone's lapel.
For several minutes during this post-match angle, all you could hear was static and screaming.
Yes.
And finally, someone in the truck or whatever actually turned the crowd mics down.
Thank God.
And then you could hear the announcers again. They had to mute the crowd.
Yeah.
So
Fan hits the ring.
So Lex breaks out the pin. The Horsemen attack Lex. They're also hitting Barry, which was weird later. Because JJ hit Barry with his shoe. Arn hit Barry a couple times. But then they all hold Lex, and Rick invites Barry to join in the beating.
Because Rick wants him to be in there.
I guess they were going to tell him all those times you got hit in the back of the head just now, it was all Lex hitting you.
Sure.
I guess that's. Now, before Barry can make a choice...
Well, maybe the rest of the Horsemen aren't on the same page with Flair.
I guess. Well, that was the other thing, how it came off. So, at this point, yes, a fan hits the ring to save Barry Windham.
Oh, man.
When old school fans hit the ring, I always get giddy because I know there's a beating coming. But Arn let the guy off easy. He grabbed the guy, pulled his hair a little bit, hit one kick to the body, and that was about all, and security took him away. But Barry fires up. He starts attacking the Horsemen, and Lex is attacking the Horsemen, but there's still 2 of them and 3 Horsemen, and so Sting runs out to even the odds. Everyone's just pissing themselves with glee, and finally it goes to commercial with the announcer saying, "We didn't have a finish." And all I could think was, this was, for the most part, a pretty boring show, but the last 5 minutes of that main event made the whole thing worth it.
Oh, yeah.
It was awesome. So they do go to commercial, and they come back. They replayed the finish for Barry, so we actually saw Barry watching a replay of a replay.
Yes.
It was Inception in 1988 Jim Crockett Promotions.
It was like when you filmed the camera back in the 80s.
Yeah.
You had the camera and you film the TV, and you see like the...
Infinity.
Yeah, you see into infinity.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
So they finished this. And
Tony
then,
knows.
And then there's a big moment as Lex Luger mans up, and Lex apologizes to Barry Windham for the mistakes he's made in the past. He admits Barry was right. He's not proud of the way he's been acting, and he hopes they can have each other's back, and he extends his hand. And Barry says, "I knew you'd come along sooner or later," and shakes his hand back, and he says, "I'll do you one better. I know you've got a contract to face the Horsemen of Charlotte, but the other name of that contract is blank. Well, I'm going to sign that contract. I'm going to be your tag team partner."
What a dream team.
Yeah.
It's the Golden Lovers all over again in 1988.
Platinum Lovers with the hair.
Yeah, that's true.
So they leave, and we've got 30 seconds of Jim Ross running his mouth about instant replay, and still don't have a finish in the main event. And the Bunkhouse Stampede is tomorrow, and the show ends.
Ross was so awesome calling the Pandalarium at the end of that match.
Yes.
He's just going out of his mind. Yeah, the last few minutes were awesome. It's just, like, the company gets sold this year. Because of shit like this. Over and over and over again. But anyway, this was and we had the Trent Knight trading card, so it was worth it in the end. Between that and the main event.
Speaking of,
yes.
I've just realized there is also a Cougar J trading card.
No. Are you looking at it right now?
I am looking at it right now.
All right, do the stats.
Height 6'1", weight 220. Color of eyes, green. Color of hair, blonde. You don't say. Hometown, Mooresville, North Carolina. Number of years in pro wrestling, 1.
Man.
We're sure they didn't just have that for everybody.
Well, I mean, this practically the same height and weight for Trent Knight.
Yeah. Favorite wrestling hold, would you like to guess?
Who? Cougar J?
Yeah.
It's got to be something stupid like the Scorpion Deathlock.
Over the rope sunset flip.
Oh, wow.
Toughest opponent, the 4 Horsemen. Titles held, none yet.
Wow, that's not on this one.
Favorite old
They
time...
must have known Trent Knight had no hope.
Favorite old-time wrestler, Nelson Royal. Favorite pro sports team, the LA Rams. Favorite college sports team, North Carolina Tar Heels.
Oh, so he got titles held while Trent Knight had amateur wrestling experience.
Ah.
Apparently, Cougar J didn't have any.
Favorite vacation spot, Bahamas. Well, can't argue that.
Better than Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, no offense.
Favorite recreation, working out in gym.
They can just write weightlifting like they did for this fucking guy.
Hobbies, it's not none. Theater lighting and special effects.
Wow.
Industrial light and magic going on here.
At least he's got like a post wrestling career.
Yeah.
That's good.
Favorite food, any home cooked meal. Favorite dessert, black cherry ice cream. Favorite
Very
color.
specific.
Favorite color is red. Favorite song, old time rock and roll.
Notice all the jobbers, their favorite color is not green.
I see what you did there.
Their favorite color is red.
Because they bleed.
Yeah.
Favorite singer, Hank Williams Jr. Favorite movie, RoboCop.
Oh, God.
Favorite actor, Clint Eastwood. And favorite actress, Charlene Tilton.
Oh, wow. God,
There you go.
he told. I know way more about him than this Trent Knight fella. He didn't give me any information. Just a bunch of nuns. Well, there you go, everybody. Maybe we'll do more trading cards as the weeks go on. We'll look for more geek jobbers and see what we can find. Who was that, Cougar J?
That was Cougar J.
Okay, next week I'm going to fight Tommy Angel.
He's number 185. I see here Trent Knight's 253, so there must be 252 more of these.
And there will be gorilla shit all over the Omni.
You won't forget any more in the next 20 minutes?
No, but I could forget some of this.
That's true. This show was awesome.
Yes.
This NWA,
and historic.
And it actually was, yes.
Yes.
This NWA World Championship Wrestling from January 30th, 1988, a great pro wrestling TV show. It opened with clips of Nikita Koloff wrestling Mike Rotundo in the arena somewhere, I guess in North Carolina, or Raleigh, North Carolina, we later learned. We were told 3 minutes remained of the match, and Nikita did the mounted punches in the corner and made a cover, and Rick Steiner yanked him out of the ring. So they go to the studio, and there's Jim Ross and Tony Schiavone and David Crockett. And they're standing there, and they all have the same matching, the blue jackets on, and they all have their microphones, their ties, their pocket squares. They all look very dapper. And they're going over the recent events, and they announce Dusty Rhodes did, in fact, three-peat, won his third straight bunkhouse stampede.
Can you imagine?
Yes.
Can you imagine?
With great ease.
You know, we just had Kevin Sullivan on the Observer Live show, who, by the way, I don't like to throw around the word genius, so I won't throw it around for Kevin Sullivan, but this is a fucking smart guy. Mm-hmm. He was an incredibly smart guy, and he's older now, and several times during the interview he said, I don't want to say anything bad about anybody. But even then, when talking about this year, because of course this is the year they end up getting sold, I mean, he flat out said, talent should not be booking the show. A lot of egos running amok. I mean, really the third time Dusty won the Bunkhouse Stampede?
Like, I mean, we're doing the show here. They're on the verge of giving both Sting and Lex Luger the rocket push. Neither of those guys could have won it.
No,
just to name someone.
Yep. And you know, he also said something that, I mean, it's obvious, but I never thought about it exactly this way before. He said, the talent should never be the booker. Mm-hmm. We all know that, okay? But he pointed out, it's not just because the talent wants to push themselves and their friends, which of course they do. Mm-hmm. But he pointed out that it's the same in storyline as it is in real life. If you're the NWA World Heavyweight Champion, you are making the most money. And so if you're the booker, you can't help but put yourself in positions to earn the most money.
Sure.
It's more than just wanting to push yourself and your friends.
It's not just
It's a financial thing right here.
Yes.
If you're the booker, you're going to put yourself in situations to make the most money. Never thought about it that way, but it's absolutely positively true.
Yes. So they make this announcement. Dusty Rhodes, 3-time Bunkhouse Stampede champion. And one guy from back in the cheap seats in the studio, which is really cheap, you hear him just go, yeah, Dusty Rhodes, yeah!
David Crockett is caught completely off guard. He literally does a double take. Like, it is a legit double take.
Yeah.
He takes, and then he double takes.
It's just amazing. They bring in Ricky Santana for
but you know what's best about it? When the guy screams that, he goes, yeah, Dusty Rhodes, yeah! And there's silence for a second, and all of a sudden the fans are going, yeah! They start clapping and cheering for Dusty.
There was a delayed reaction to everything. Because David, as you know, did a double take. The first take was kind of a slow burn and then a snap, what? And the fans started screaming and cheering a few seconds later. So Ricky Santana comes out. He's plugging his West Coast debut in Albuquerque and Los Angeles in February. And he cuts his promo in English, and he cuts his promo in Spanish, so all the Spanish-speaking fans can understand. And they say thank you, and he goes on his way. Midnight Express versus El Negro and Dave Laperouse.
Oh, this fucking Dave Laperouse.
First of all, didn't it used to be Dale Laperouse, or are these like twin brothers who we never seen?
Damn, you know what? I think it was Dale Laperouse.
I was positive it used to be Dale.
I mean, it very easily could have just been a typo.
I can't imagine.
Can't believe they're two Laperouse.
I can't imagine anyone would clone a wrestler this bad.
Not clone, but I mean, really, Dave Laperouse? Okay, it's astonishing enough that Dave Laperouse made it in this business. You're telling me he has a fucking twin who also made it in?
Exactly.
No, it's not possible.
I agree. Yeah, nobody with this physique and this haircut should be allowed to participate in any sport on any level.
Hideous, pale.
Just horrible.
Terrible mustache.
Incredible mullet.
No idea where he's supposed to be most of the time.
He's not even skinny fat. He just has no body at all.
Yeah.
Murdoch takes him.
He has a body.
Kinda.
He doesn't have a physique.
He has a, yeah. I mean, he's got a form. So Murdoch takes him, slams him into the podium, which screwed up the audio for the rest of the match. They just destroyed Lapidus like 5 minutes.
It was so boring. And keep in mind, this is the Midnight Express doing this, that the announcers are busy talking about how the most dramatic videotape that you will ever see concerning Dusty Rhodes is going to be shown on the program tonight.
That's right.
I thought it was going to be when the Road Warrior stuck a spike in his eye and then he left.
That's the end of this year.
Yeah, that was later. And they also announced tonight is the bench press contest.
That's right.
That we have been waiting for so long.
I believe that was also in Raleigh.
Yes.
I think so, yeah. So they beat up El Negro for a while. He is worlds better than Dale and or Dave Lapidus.
One point, Dick Murdoch beats the shit out of Dale outside. I mean, he beats the shit out of him. He throws him into the announce table. He's just whacking him. And referee Teddy Long looks outside and says, and I quote, "Hey, isn't that a fucking DQ?"
Might be.
I mean, it fucking should be.
Are you going to disqualify Dick Murdoch?
Yeah!
All right, well, you're a braver man than Teddy Long.
I can run.
That's true. You could probably outrun Dick Murdoch.
I guarantee I could outrun Dick Murdoch at this stage.
Yeah. They pinned El Negro with a rocket launcher. So then Crockett goes to interview Cornette, who has a great story to tell. My only regret is that this whole thing wasn't stretched out over like a month.
This should have been stretched out over like a year.
Yeah. So Cornette announces, yes, he has been talked into getting back into the wrestling ring. He was snookered before and fooled into getting in there with Ronnie Garvin in a dress, Miss Atlanta Lively. He has some other matches with, who else did he talk about? Some other gimmick. Oh, there's Jimmy Valiant, I think.
Yeah.
Or Precious, or whatever. Baby Doll. Anyway. Here he says he's finally going to get back in the ring. He says it's going to be an 8-man tag team match. It will be myself, the Midnight Express, and Dick Murdoch against Nikita Koloff, Barry Windham, Dusty Rhodes, and their partner. And I have put some very strict stipulations on who this partner can be. This partner can be anyone under 5'6". This partner can be anyone under 130 pounds. So unless, as he put it, unless you have a midget or a 12-year-old to get in this ring, you're not going to have a partner. It's going to be 4-on-3. We'll will you down, we'll destroy you, and then they'll tag me in. I will lay down my tennis racket, I will get in the ring, and I will pin whoever it is that's destroyed. And I hope it's you, Dusty Rhodes. So Murdoch plugs his barbed wire match against Nikita Koloff on February 6th.
The February 12th is the cage match.
Okay, yeah.
So Murdoch says February 6th, we're doing this barbed wire fence match. Mm-hmm. Fence match with Nikita. That's the old school. It's a fence match. Mm-hmm. And he says, you're not even going to make it, Nikita, to this 8-man tag. I love the idea that Jim Cornette has been talked into wrestling again. And he's supposedly so smart, but he has only come up with stipulations. It's not even like he said, I'll wrestle, but I'm going to name their opponent. I'm going to pick some fan out of the crowd. He's saying, you can pick anybody. The only stipulations are they must be smaller than 5'6" and less than 130 pounds. He's giving them so many options. He's such a cocky idiot. It's classic.
Even though he has wrestled women before, it didn't occur to him they may find another one.
No. And then Murdoch says maybe it'll be David Crockett. Cornette says no, he's too tall.
He's 5'7".
Jim Cornette won't even take on David Crockett.
No,
he's too intimidating.
Yes. The Varsity Club shows up for a promo. Got Rotunda there in the Syracuse blue and orange singlet. And Steiner out there in the Michigan maize and blue singlet. And Kevin Sullivan in a black and purple robe like a devil worshiper. That part I never quite figured out.
Well, that's his gimmick.
I guess so. He's a
devil worshiper.
A devil worshiper who coaches college athletes.
Well, young college men can be coerced by Satan.
Impressionable?
Yes.
Fair enough. So they show the finish of the Koloff match, which is Nikita hits the sickle, Steiner takes the ref, Sullivan, in some kind of wacky mask, hits the ring, hits Nikita in the throat with a gimmick, and Rotunda makes the cover, and there's a new TV champion.
You know, there's so much great stuff on this show, but, you can just see the chinks in the armor here. Nikita Koloff lost this title to Mike Rotundo. I realize they're trying to get the Varsity Club over, but like, what? And then later, Rotunda just hands over the Florida heavyweight title to Rick Steiner.
They go back to the studio.
Dude!
They go
what
back
are
to
they
the studio.
doing?
I must disagree with you on Rotunda, because Rotunda was awesome here. We have watched boring Mike Rotunda as Florida champion for the past year. He was a super nice guy. He was super boring. He had a bit of an edge. He was still super boring. He comes out here. He's got his Letterman's jacket on. His hair is all neatly done up like a preppy. He's got the TV championship belt and this huge cheesy grin on his face. He's so happy and so proud.
Vinny, on a scale of 1 to 10, okay, he was a 0. Now he's maybe a 2. He beat Nikita fucking Koloff. I cannot stand for this. You're looking at this through 2018 eyes, where every fucking geek ends up with a title. And in WWE, you've got like fucking Carmella as the women's title of one brand, and then Nia is the champion, or whoever the fuck's the champion on the other brand.
So is your point that they should have done more to build Rotunda up as a threat before putting the belt on him?
Either that or like win another belt. Win the stupid Western States Heritage title.
That's Larry's, as we'll get to.
We'll get to that.
So he's holding this belt, and he's very, very, very happy and proud. And then Sullivan says Rotunda's his favorite. Steiner gets upset. Why is he your favorite? And Sullivan barks, "'Cause I said so. When he's my favorite now, if you're ever my favorite, I'll let you know." But before, they didn't want Rick to be too mad. So they said, "Rick, we will go ahead and we'll give you the Florida Championship belt."
They gave him the belt.
Okay.
This is not allowed, Vinny. You can't hand over your championship. This is supposed to be a sport.
I don't think the Florida Championship belt ever came back. I don't think Rick Steiner was.
So he retired it?
I
You should have said,
so.
"I'm retiring it. You can take this goddamn belt home."
That's basically what he did.
Well, no, Rick goes, "As long as I have this belt around my waist, nobody will ever beat me."
Because Rick Steiner is a goof in this.
Okay, so if it turns out that he's an idiot and he never shows up with the belt, fine. You retired the belt.
All right, we'll see how it goes.
If he comes out and defends his goddamn belt.
But they give him the belt because, as Rotunda explains, in the Varsity Club, we know how to share.
Yeah, I like that line.
So he's holding his belt up and he's smiling, and I just posed with a camera that's not here or not on. And then people start to boo and chant, "We don't want to hear it." And Mike's feelings are hurt. But he just holds the belt up higher and smiles bigger. There is so much charisma in this man in the past 2 weeks that we have not seen in the past year.
And I presume we'll never see again.
Well, you remember his career.
Yes.
Varsity Club is awesome, is all I'm saying. The Varsity Club was great.
Hey, listen. On a scale of 1 to 10, he's now a 2. That's a fucking giant improvement. Before he was a 0.
I think
they aren't the fucking Horsemen. Are you kidding me?
I didn't say they were the Horsemen. I said they were great.
They're fine. Sullivan is
2 is not fine.
Sullivan is doing a good job.
They're a 6.
I'll give him a 4. No higher than 4, Vinny.
Larry Zbyszko versus Alan Martin. So as we spoiled in the last segment, Larry Zbyszko has defeated Barry Windham for the prestigious Western States Heritage Wrestling Championship.
I don't consider it a spoiler because they mentioned at the very beginning of the show.
Well, I was talking to say we spoiled it for our listeners.
I'll never listen again.
Larry took this fool apart. He looked great, by the way.
Alan Martin looked great.
That too, yeah.
He's a very competent, old-school jobber. I'd have a match with him in a heartbeat.
Now, am I mistaken? I kind of watched this part out of one eye, but it looked like Larry hit the neck breaker, which was his finish, and then Martin got a shoulder up. Did I see that wrong?
You may have seen it wrong.
I might have seen it wrong.
All I know is he had a pile driver and a neck breaker. That was the finish.
That was the finish. He hits this pile driver, or I should say he hooks this pile driver. He puts Alan Martin's head between his legs. He lifts him up, and he's standing there. He checks the ref. "This is legal, right? I can hit this move in this state?" And Teddy said, "Sure." And Larry pile drived him and broke his neck and pinned him. So Baby Doll also at ringside in what I believe was an acid-washed denim dress.
Hey.
The 80s.
It's the 80s, baby. We'll get to the 80s here in a little while. I got some 80s trivia for everybody.
So we go to a clip of Dusty Rhodes. They're at ringside. And Dusty Rhodes, as a token of a trophy, I suppose, for winning his 3rd straight bunkhouse stampede, I give him a big Texas belt buckle.
And this is a big-ass... This belt buckle is too big for Dusty. That should tell you how big this buckle is.
So Dusty takes this buckle and he says, "Thank you." And he puts it down and turns his back and forgets about it.
You know, dude, Like, you're going to win the Bunkhouse Stampede 3 straight times. Like, act like it's a big deal. Why did he discard this buckle like this?
I don't know.
He didn't just accept the buckle. He snatched the buckle and just thumped it on the ring apron.
He looked at it for half a second and then all but dropped it in a trash can.
Why the hell would I ever care about the Bunkhouse Stampede after this?
I don't know.
He doesn't give a shit. He made that abundantly clear.
So he talks about beating the best in the Stampede. He's still the U.S. champion, defending the belt all over the country. Vows to win the world title for the 4th time when out comes Baby Doll in her purple spandex pants and sequin top, and she interrupts. And she says Dusty is so self-righteous, but she has a present for him. She passes him a manila envelope, says he can do whatever he wants with these. She's got plenty more where that came from. She says these pictures prove Dusty is not as virtuous as he claimed to be. Larry Zbyszko wants a U.S. title shot, and you're going to give it to him because of these pictures. And she leaves. Dusty peeks at the photos inside, tucks the back of the envelope, takes his U.S. title. He did take his belt buckle, and he left without saying anything.
So obviously, we never officially found out.
No, it's a great mystery that was Dusty took to the grave.
What was in the envelope.
Yeah.
And apparently, what was supposed to be in the envelope. You ready for a spoiler?
Sure.
According to Baby Doll, they were going to do an angle where in the envelope were pictures of Dusty Rhodes in bed with another woman. And it was going to be a scandal because he was a married man. Mm-hmm. Now, granted, if you actually watch the show, he's constantly doing promos, talking about what a ladies' man he is,
yes,
and trying to outdo Ric Flair. Mm-hmm. So I don't know how that would have gotten over. But anyway, she got fired.
Oh.
And I guess they had a couple of other ideas. But instead, they just dropped the entire thing. And people, can you imagine that, like, you watch Raw, you watch any wrestling show nowadays, you watch any show from the Attitude Era, there's 9 million angles. There were so few storylines that did not have a conclusion back in Crockett in 1988.
Yes.
That this one stupid storyline is like still talked about to this day.
Yes.
We're watching this is ironic, by the way. So we're watching the Raw Nitros from 19 years ago this week, and I think that this is 19 years, basically to the day, that they do that pay-per-view where it's Vince, Shane, and Austin in a 3-way ladder match.
Yes.
This is the show where somebody raises the briefcase.
Yes.
We never found out who that was.
No.
Nobody gave a shit back then. I mean, they kind of a little bit did, but they were over it. And there's a billion storylines that have begun and just completely been dropped on a weekly basis. And this goddamn envelope is historic.
Yes.
It's crazy. How the business has changed.
The Jive Tones versus Kendall Windham and Italian Stallion. If you've been listening and paying attention to these Saturday night reports here on the Sunday show we do, you know I've had some very harsh criticism about both Jive Tones, and probably equally harsh things to say about Kendall Windham. So we go into this match where Italian Stallion is probably the best guy in there.
Probably.
And I had very low expectations. This turned into a perfectly fine TV tag match.
Yeah.
The babyfaces whipped ass forever. Jive Tones were great bumbling fools.
They got a ton of heat.
They went through a break before the heat was even gotten. And then when they got the heat, it was just a backdrop on Kendall. And then Shaska added a hit from the apron for good measure. And they double-teamed him for a while. Kendall Windham was a very good babyface in peril here. He was selling his ass off, hit a few desperation shots, and collapsed, but he never stopped fighting for that hot tag. And finally, Stallion gets the hot tag. He's running wild all over the place. Hits a power slam. It looks like he might have the match even won. But he gives up in the cover to jump up and hit Shaska on the apron. This lets Tiger hit him with a knee to the back. He makes a cover. Shaska holds Stallion's feet down from the outside. And the Jive Tones win. A very solid TV tag match. I enjoyed it.
Couple of things here. First off, so they have the old school gimmick where each of the Jive Tones has a very, very hard head.
Yeah.
So they got run together with a noggin knocker. I couldn't figure out, well, what happens? I mean, the answer was they both fell down. Mm-hmm. But I mean, if the storyline is you both have a super hard head, if the heads bonk together, it's the unstoppable force versus the immovable object. Like, what happens? Your heads are so hard that when they ram together, you're both unconscious? Or your heads are so hard when they ram together, nothing happens? I mean, the answer was they both fell down, but that's that would have been a great quarry for a Pro Wrestling Illustrated article back in the 80s. What would happen if their heads got rammed together?
Years and years and years ago, I was reviewing a very old six-man tag. I had like Andre and the Samoans, and I think Junkyard Dog. But Andre always did headbutts, and the Samoans always did headbutts, and the Dog always did headbutts. And so it was you got to see the pecking order of who, in pro wrestling terms, has the hardest head. The Giant, the Samoan, or the Black guy?
What was the answer?
I forget.
You're useless.
As usual.
You brought up that and didn't have an answer for us.
It's an unanswerable question.
Well, I'm sure in that match there was an answer.
There probably was.
And finally, the finish there, the announcers could not figure out why fucking Italian Stallion went after Shaska when he seemingly had... They did literally everything except flat out call him an idiot.
I have no idea what he was thinking, they said.
Continually question this. Shaska's a good talker.
They go cut a promo. Conway was fine. He just said, we're coming to all your cities, the big towns, the small towns, to get ready for the Jive tones. Shaska was much better. I like that he calls out the superpowers. Points out they don't like the foreigners in Moscow, Alabama. And he calls out Dusty and says whatever he's got to say about Dusty. Then the next thing he calls out is the Lightning Express.
Oh, my God. That's a match I do not need to see.
The top of the totem pole to the bottom.
Well, I figured that what happened was they challenged the big stars because, you want to challenge the top guys.
Yeah.
But they're going to be feuding on the road.
They
with
had to plug the matches they're actually going to do.
Yes.
Yeah. So between this very good, the good match and a very good promo, for the first time, the Jive Tones actually came off like a major league act. So this is a huge win for them. David Crockett interviewed Misty Blue Sims.
God, this was just
Where to begin?
Well, so David Crockett goes, we're here with Misty Blue, the women's heavyweight champion of the world. And then suddenly he goes, oh.
He stops. He puts his finger to his lips.
Literally puts his hand in his mouth and goes, I called you heavyweight. I'm so sorry. Exactly like that on air. And she has no idea what to say.
No.
And so she begins talking. And she says, well, I came here to just say hi to all my fans. And, I've been successfully defending my title around the United States.
I can't believe you got this much out of this.
Well, she's just mumbling.
She's mumbling, softly repeating herself. She was worse than Crockett.
Oh, she was the worst ever. Like, she had something she was supposed to say, but she couldn't remember. And you know what she couldn't remember? The words United States. Not something complicated. I've been defending my title all around the United States? Yeah, United States. And she goes, I've been working on a lot of stuff.
Some new techniques.
What have you been working on? I've been working on hitting the ropes, high flying stuff. Hitting the fucking ropes?
Hitting the ropes better, she says.
Are you kidding me?
Those are her new techniques. Hitting the ropes better and some high flying stuff.
Some high flying stuff.
So she explains that the best coach at this high flying stuff is Jim Cornette. Because look at what he's done for Bobby Eaton. So she would love a chance to talk to Jim Cornette about high-flying stuff if she ever got the chance.
This was one of the funniest, most horrible... How is this not... If this is not on Botchamania by now, get with the fucking program. This was one of the most horrendous interview segments I've seen in all my life watching pro wrestling.
I wrote, this was seriously one of the very worst promos I've ever seen on a wrestling show.
Yes! This was -5 stars in terms of a promo.
Damn straight.
I mean, I guess I'd have to go -4 because it only went and it was funny. I'd watch it again.
Yes.
So maybe I'd go.
We did watch it again.
Yeah, maybe -3. Okay, I couldn't go the full -5.
It was atrocious.
If it had gone as long as that Ollie Anderson promo,
yeah,
then it'd be an easy -5.
That's true.
But it was fucking terrible.
Ron Garvin and Jimmy Garvin versus Charles Ryan and Tony Suber.
Okay, so the only thing I need to talk about in this match is Ron Garvin's finish is a punch. Okay?
Yeah.
So he throws his punch, and I don't know who it was, one of the announcers says Ron Garvin has, quote, the most awesome punch in the world.
The world.
The world.
The planet Earth.
So I thought to myself, well, who the fuck was the undisputed world heavyweight boxing champion in January of 1988? 3 fucking guesses.
That Tyson fella.
Mike Tyson.
Yeah.
I was like, are you kidding me? What's going on with this show? It's one just load of bullshit after another.
So Ronnie wins with a punch, and this looked live. This actually looked like a Mike Tyson punch. It was like he drilled this guy in the forehead, and the guy's head snapped back like his neck was broken. Ronnie pinned him. Then they showed it in super slow-mo, and Ronnie throws this punch, and he catches him with like the meat of the hand on the bottom of the fist, and he hits him, and in slow-mo, there's a brief pause, and then Charles throws his head back and collapses. It was actually a great worked punch and a great sell, and they ruined it by showing it in slow-mo.
That's what they do.
I guess so. Lex Luger in his striped polo shirt came out for a promo. He removed his polo when the women were happy. Said he'd been friends with Barry Windham for a long time. They were the youth and the future of the sport. Played a cage match in Atlanta, promised to be more violent than the War Games. I believe he said it would be himself, Windham, and Ollie Anderson against the Horsemen.
Yeah, he's trying too hard. His best promos are not when he's yelling and screaming. Man, he's just yelling and screaming. It's unfocused. I get bored.
Yeah, it is easy to tune out.
Yeah, not good.
Cornette comes back out. Genuinely moved.
I love these heels. I love the heels.
He said that Misty Blue was a sweet little thing.
Oh, he's all smitten.
He'd heard all the nice things she said about him, and he really appreciated it, and he would like to meet her. So Misty comes out, and Cornette shakes her hand, calls her sweet again. And Misty says, I'd really love a chance to work with you and learn some of your techniques. Cornette says, well, listen, why don't we go backstage? We'll set up a private training session. I'll teach you everything I know. Misty says, well, there's a ring right here, and nobody's in it. And Cornette's like shy about showing off. Oh, not in front of all these people. Come on now. But she talks him into it, and he takes off his jacket, he takes off his glasses, he puts down his racket, and he gets in the ring. And the Midnights and Murdoch come out to watch, and they're all just as dumb as he is. Like, every child in the world could have seen where this is going.
Oh, yeah.
So Cornette gets in there, and he's got no mic, and there's no mic. You know, he's just shouting, but you hear him talking about how Stan will lay the fella down right here, Bobby will go up top, and he turns around, and Misty Blue hits a terrible drop kick.
Right to the gut.
He's not that tall, everyone. And Cornette goes down, and the heels hit the ring, but then there's Dusty and Barry out there to stand by her, and they say, she'll be our partner on Baltimore on the 14th. And they leave, and Cornette is squealing and shrieking, she tried to kill me. She tried to rupture my spleen, pop my kidneys.
He says he could have ended up with peritonitis.
Peritonitis.
Which actually I thought was a shout out to Dave, but Dave got it like 4 years later.
Okay.
Yeah. Almost died.
Yes.
Yeah, very bad.
That would have sucked. So he's shrieking hysterically as they
He's
go to break.
incredible. You've never seen someone so embarrassed. Like, he's shrieking so... He's in such a state that you think something must be wrong with him. That's the point.
Yeah.
He's awesome.
You're supposed to.
If you saw a guy behaving like this in real life, like, you'd call the cops.
We had clips of Ric Flair night from the Dorton Arena in Raleigh, North Carolina. First, 2 limos arrive, and I thought, oh my God, I'm watching Nitro. Flair steps out of the limo. There's a bunch of lovely young women with him. One of them, we don't think it was woman, but it might have been.
I don't think it was, but it looked like her. She'd been in the business for like 5 years.
Sullivan's on the show.
Sullivan was there.
Yeah. So
I mean, I don't think it's impossible.
It's not impossible. I don't think it's her, but we should at least mention, hey, she might have been on the show.
But I mean, I'm sure she'd been in the magazine. So
oh, sure.
I think the idea of them throwing her on TV, I doubt it was her. But anyway,
she's on the show in like a year.
Anyway,
yeah. So the I believe it was NWA Digest magazine had a trophy for Flair as 1987's Wrestler of the Year, as voted by fans and promoters around the country. So Flair takes this big ass trophy, which actually, spoiler, survived the show. It's like 4 or 5 feet tall. He says, "Here in this building, my first championship win, I won the Mid-Atlantic television title, which is now the national TV title. I won it right here in this building. I had a big party that night. I'm going to have an even bigger party tonight." Talks for a while about the 4 Horsemen and Jim Crockett Promotions. They're all number 1. He poses with the women. He starts taunting Lex Luger. He taunts Precious. and they go to break. And I thought, well, that was nice, but kind of pointless. So Sting is wrestling Bob Emery. This appears to be in the same arena. Well, it definitely was the same arena. Then seconds after Flair had taken this trophy. Sting squashes this guy, wins the Scorpion in 30 seconds. And then Tony gets in the ring to interview him. Sting says, I've seen the tuxedos. I've seen the limousines. That's all garbage. Now, I love to party, but only when it's time to party. And right now, it's time for the world champion to come get in the Stinger's face. So Flair, like a great heel, sends Dylan out there instead. JJ comes out. He's in his tuxedo. Got a drink in his hand. A couple of lovely young women by his side. He calls Sting a hotshot. Says they have tolerated him for weeks, but now Sting has shown he has no class. He has ruined Flair's big day.
Tells him to go get lost.
Get lost, he says. Sting eyeballs women at ringside.
This was so amazing. Sting playing the role of Misty Blue. Can't remember a goddamn thing he's supposed to say. He looks at the woman and he goes, Is this Flair's
talent?
Mm-hmm. JJ goes, yeah. And he goes, huh. Yeah, well, I've lost my train of thought.
I'm at a loss for words,
I'm at a loss for words.
Now, I get your point. He recovered much better than Misty Blue did.
Well, that's for fucking sure.
Yeah. So
low standards, Vinny. It's like Mike Rotunda having charisma.
Fair enough. So he says this talent's looking tough and it's hard not to want to party right now. I don't think calling a lovely young woman tough is a compliment, but I guess he meant it that way. But it's not time to party, he says. I want Flair, and instead Flair's hiding behind his women and a bottle of champagne. And so Dylan's sick of this stuff. He throws a drink in Sting's face.
So Sting is standing there.
Time freezes.
And Dylan throws his drink in his face, and he doesn't even move. He doesn't flinch.
Nope.
He doesn't blink.
Nope.
It's like a wax statue of Sting. His liquor it's all over his face. Like, if you did this to somebody on Raw, you know they're going to oversell it. Sting doesn't move a muscle. He stands there for like a split second.
He stands there like 3 seconds.
And then he does his guttural scream.
He roars like a beast.
And grabs JJ and drags his ass into the ring. This was so awesome.
Yeah.
Sting was perfect for this role.
Yeah. He throws JJ in, hits the Scorpion. JJ does the best bump ever for the Scorpion.
Oh, yeah.
just ragdolls.
They're peaking the house mics.
Everyone's going crazy. In North Carolina, by the way, where granted Flair was a heel, but they really did love him there. He puts JJ in the Scorpion. The Horsemen hit the ring. Sting bails because even though he's a courageous hero, he's not an idiot.
He's not an idiot.
And there's 3 of them.
He jumps left, he jumps right, and finally he does a diving forward roll and slides out the bottom. It was like a martial arts movie.
So awesome.
It's fucking incredible.
So Shivani is still in the ring for all of this. The Horsemen are irate. Their big night has been ruined. They're fuming. They're pacing back and forth. Their fists are on their hips. They're sweating. No one tends to JJ. JJ is still prone in the center of the mat like roadkill. Sting may have killed him for all we know. Finally, Flair grabs the mic. He vows he will not appear on this program again until he gets a match with Sting. This is fucking phenomenal. Unreal how great this was.
He wants his kid, this punk, to come back right now. He's got David Crockett out there. Says, I will not appear anywhere on national television, on any of your shows, till this fucking guy signs up with a signed contract. He shows up with a signed contract in his hand. It's outstanding.
Just great. And then there's more. We go back to the studio.
Oh, my God, Dylan.
Dylan. Tully, Arn, and JT are there. They're all very surly. Dylan is great. Dylan is still pouting. He says, Sting, you could have been something. You could have been a world title contender. But you showed you're nothing more than a low-life party crasher. And he pouts his lips and he turns his back. He can't say anymore. He's so angry. Then Tully takes over. He was on fire. Absolute fire. Being a great champion means you're great 24 hours a day. Sting, you showed you had no class. Now, JJ, maybe he had a little too much to drink. He stumbled a little bit. He spilled. And you totally lost control. You lost your cool. And that proves you're not at our level. He calls out Sting. He calls out Luger. He calls out Ollie. He calls out Dusty. He's plugging cage matches right and left. He was great. Arn says Nikita and Windham are both coming off big losses, which is true. And because of this, everyone on that side of the fence is rallying together, trying one more time to knock off these horsemen. And he promised in that cage match in the Omni in Atlanta, he's going to show that Atlanta was the Andersons' town. This was so wonderful.
Yeah.
This is all so great.
When JJ announced that Sting degraded himself on national television, and he went from a top contender to the world title to nothing more than a low-life party crat, and he can't even face the camera when he says it. He's so disgusted, this guy. These are such great heels. It's always everybody else's fault.
Yeah.
Always.
And they never do anything wrong.
No, it's always the other guy's fault.
Even though we had all seen with our own eyes as JJ reared his drink back,
slipped.
threw it forward.
He tripped on he would drink too much.
He had a little too much to drink and just lost control, and Sting blew a stack. So Ollie Anderson does an empty studio promo. I've seen a lot of really great Ollie Anderson promos. This wasn't one of them. It started off fine, as he explains he's been away from a year, watching his boy, that snot-nosed kid Tully and Arn used to talk about, watching his son wrestle. How great that was. He wouldn't forget what Tully and Arn said about his family. You guys made a mistake throwing Luger out of the gang. And then he just starts going on and on, saying the same stuff. He starts mumbling. Wasn't quite Misty Blue mumbling, but it was mumbling. So there's a cage match with Tully and Arn on the 14th in the Omni. And he talks about this a lot. It's very dangerous. It'll hurt your elbow. It'll hurt your nose. It'll hurt your face. And eventually I just gave up.
Oh, my God, it was boring. Ollie Anderson, there's some people that are like, they should be career baby faces or they should be career heels. Ricky Steamboat, career babyface. Mm-hmm. Daniel Bryan probably should be a career babyface, although he's a good heel. Ollie Anderson should never fucking be a babyface.
No.
It just is not working. I didn't buy... I don't know. I know what they're trying to do. I know the role he's playing, the old tough guy coming back. But fuck, it's Ollie Anderson as a babyface. It's ridiculous.
It is. Sting and Barry Windham versus Gary Royal and Mike Jackson. I think Gary Royal was the shortest dude I've ever seen wrestle on Saturday night.
Nah. The problem, well, I mean, part of it is he did it with Sting and Barry Windham.
Barry is
he
huge.
He very easily could have been like 5'10", for all I know.
Maybe he was. Maybe that's just.
But he looked very short, and it didn't help that he was very fat.
He looked short, fat, and pudgy.
He looked like an Oompa Loompa.
I guess fat and pudgy is redundant, but not a lot of buff, pudgy guys out there. But yeah, his work was fine. They beat him up for a while, tapped him out with a scorpion. I guess Mike Jackson started, but he didn't do much.
This was where the show seemed like it was being rushed.
The show, I honestly felt like, kind of felt rushed, and it kind of felt like these last two segments were totally unneeded. Like they'd run out of good stuff, and they were looking for filler.
Well, that's what these are, Vinny. They're standby matches.
I suppose that's true. Barbarian and Warlord versus Max MacGyver and Ed Franks. MacGyver was small. The big scary guys had fun throwing him around and breaking his back repeatedly. Ivan Koloff's on commentary, plugging the bench press competition that night.
I mean, this match was quick, and I guess the idea is you had to have Warlord and Barbarian on because they had to do the Paul Jones promo. And it's not like they're going to cut a match involving Barry, Windham, and Sting. So basically, instead of one 4-minute match, you had two 90-second matches with the ring entrances in the middle.
Yeah. So they beat these guys up quick, one with the diving headbutt. And it's time for Paul Jones to plug a promo. The go-home promo for the bench press challenge. You may think doubt is creeping in my mind. No! You may think I have butterflies. Yes! Because he knows how big and strong these Road Warriors are. He's not going to downplay them. He's not going to overlook their strength. He knows all 4 men will be shooting for the top, going farther than they ever had before. And then he totally changed his tune, said he only had butterflies that his men might tear a muscle or something. Way to plug the bench press challenge. One of these guys might get hurt on the flight.
The best part is, he's supposed to finish up with a line about the $50,000, okay? But this is important. So, he has to be reminded by David. David awkwardly reminds him of the $50,000. So then he goes, $50,000 on the line tonight, and it's as good as in my pocket. That's the go-home line, okay? He forgot that fucking line, and so his actual promo, if he had not been reminded by David Crockett, his actual go-home promo ended with, I hope my men don't tear a muscle. That's the best part. It's not even like, had he not forgotten that last line, he would have finished with, for example, The line about my men, I know they can bench press 700 pounds. I'm not on TV to hear my own voice. I'm not on TV to lie. If I say they'll bench press 700 pounds, they will. Okay, fine, forget the last line. That's a good way to end. Instead, my only concern is they may tear a muscle. Dead silence. David goes, what about that $50,000? Aha! $50,000 on the line tonight. It's as good as in my pocket.
Now, this is not a good promo, as we've explained here.
Get out of here.
Let's go look back over the show and look at all the events they have plugged.
I enjoyed that promo.
I enjoyed it. Saying it was fun does not mean it was good. They've plugged the bench press challenge.
Yes.
They plugged the 8-man tag with Misty Blue and Cornette.
Yes.
They plugged the barbed wire fence match.
Indeed.
With Murdoch and Nikita. And after that, I guess that was the same cage match Murdoch was talking about. They have plugged, at some point, Ric Flair is going to get a match with Sting.
Yeah.
They have plugged a 6-man with Lex, Ollie, and Barry against the Horsemen. They've also plugged Lex and Ollie against Tully and Arn. There is so much stuff to look forward to now.
Yeah.
They just does a great job of building so many different things.
If only they hadn't kept flying that fucking airplane everywhere. Who knows where we'd be.